Hey, welcome everybody to podcast number 115. I'm back from holidays, so you're welcome. You don't have to let Dexter drag you through the mud in this process. And
I'm just gonna chill out. I love it.
I think we had one of the best podcasts last week.
Well, it was with a carry, so that's perfectly fine.
A winner,
I'm fine
yeah.
with that.
A winner, yeah.
You know what I did? We did hear a lot of great compliments after last week, right? You know, I think it helped. Obviously, we had a lot of bowling stuff we could talk about, and the history of the weekend and how that all went. But obviously, talking to Kerry Snyder and his story and some of the things he's gone through was awesome for people to hear and to listen to.
It was so nice to sit there and talk about a tournament, and all of a sudden, an hour and a half went by. We talked bowling for an hour and a half, guys.
One
When
tournament.
was the last time we could do that? It was awesome. It was so good.
Not since COVID started, obviously.
Right.
But Kerry, we missed you there at the Autumn Open, and we gave you lots of shout outs and compliments last week about your bowling at the Autumn Open. Obviously winning the doubles there on Thursday night, and then qualifying your first shift on Saturday. And I think somebody said, Len Anseth said, Kerry Kreitz is going to win the tournament, right, when you were throwing the shift. And then as things progressed, obviously you had an outstanding Sunday and finished second. So how did that go for you, man? How did that make you feel?
Yeah, no, obviously it made me feel fantastic. It's been a long sledge. I guess I shouldn't say that. Since 2017, it's been a rough bowling situation. Have been bowling really well, and then obviously we had the year and a half off. So to get back to Paradise Lanes, we played the Autumn Open celebration last year. We were lucky enough to play and played all right in that event. Obviously, Trevor Tom won. And then going into this year, coming back to the Autumn Open and playing the Thursdays and coming back as a repeat or as the defending champion, obviously got to light a fire under everybody's butts a little bit. And to come out playing really good gave me a lot of confidence going into the Friday morning shift and playing really well to qualify there, winning some doubles money with Dexter and Adam.
Yeah.
All three of us played really well. And then, going into Sunday, not playing all Saturday, not knowing what the lane conditions were going to be like. It took me the first game coming out against Mr. Schneider, right? I start with a 6-bagger. He starts with a 8-bagger. Yeah. In the 16th. Yeah, sorry, getting through the top 40s. Played really well for the first 4 games and then kind of slid in. I'm not sure, qualified 5th or something like that. But yeah, just playing well the whole time, not really concerned about how my game was playing. And it was kind of neat hearing a lot of the comments. Everybody thinks, it was a tough scoring house. That's the way bowling used to be, right? It was 18-inch centers, it was white bases, it was conditioned to the moon. There was quite a bit of conditioner on there, as Mr. Miller would like to say.
Yeah.
So it played pretty fast, and it was neat to play on older conditions, even though it was on new synthetics and stuff like that. But to play, I guess, kind of my A game, where I learned how to play hard and fast up the middle and hit it heavy and pick up whatever was left over. So it went really good for me. And then to see how Kerry Schneider played, right? He's a slow roller, has lots of roll on his ball, and he scored astronomical as well, right? So it was neat to see the transition.
Question for you is obviously, the comment or the challenge sometimes is when you have so much else going on outside of on the lanes. You have the live stream, you've got the 5PNU, WCBT, the merch, all these things going on and helping with all that. Was it something that you just learned that you can handle both, or the bowling came together and that took a back seat, or you had the right amount of team there helping with everything, or is it just now it's been a few years and I've been through this whole game plan, so I've learned how to adjust and mentally and physically and all those things that I'm going to continue to be able to do everything, but I'm also be able to make sure that I continue to bowl. And this was the weekend where it all came together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was definitely a large combination of all the factors, right? This was the 6th year of the WCBT and live streaming all the events and stuff like that. So it's been a learning curve how to balance it. So with a combination of that and bowling well, and the support, right? Like I had my wife Julie there running the table, and Dexter and Mark and all you guys, Daryl, when you were there, and just helping out and alleviating a lot of the stress while playing, not having to worry about, oh, is the camera running? Is it going well? I had somebody watching that and then come tell me if there was a situation. It wasn't me running back and forth to make sure it was up and running and stuff like that. We did have some small live stream issues here and there, but it was just a lot less stress for sure.
Yeah, well, it was awesome to see you play well, and we gave you enough kudos on that, so we don't need to overdwell on it here, buddy.
No, for sure.
But anyways, great job. Let's banter a bit about Masters last weekend. Obviously, that was only in Alberta, but you three played Masters weekend in Bonnie Doon and Sherwood Bowl. I think a lot of people are probably thinking scores out of Bonnie Doon were going to be a lot higher than they were, and they were after 4 games. Had a lot of guys sitting there, right, over the 2,400 you're projected, and then this sort of slid down a little bit. But how was the experience for you guys in the first Masters weekend here on last weekend?
It was good. It was nice seeing everybody back. Our numbers, honestly, were pretty static from
they were
March 2020. To be honest with you, you looked at it after five or after 4 or 5. There was 5 or 6 guys over 300 average, and I was down in the pack. I wasn't necessarily playing all that well, and I was like, man, I want to have a huge deficit to come back on, right? And let's be honest, none of us have really played at Bonnie Doon for the last 18 months, and then at the end it was only like 2360,
except for Dexter.
Yeah.
You did too, Daryl.
Yeah,
well,
I know, but I didn't play Masters.
But 2360, right? And really, like, that's not a whole. I don't think it was Elaine's fault. I think they just maybe a couple bad breaks here and there. People weren't carrying strikes or weren't getting on runs, and it just happened that way. Matt started off really well. Schultz, he shoot 1331, and I thought, honestly, I think it was at one point I was saying 2500 for sure. Yeah. Right, because the way he was rolling it, and then he finished with only at 2550, right, or something like that.
Or 2350.
2550. No,
22.
22 and a half. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 2250. Yeah, right.
And so I mean, there were some good scores that way. The lanes played a little drier than normal, and it wasn't like astronomically like difficult by any means. It just there's a little bit more movement than the old Bonnie Doon, I guess, from 18 months ago, I guess you can say, which was fine. The approaches I found a little bit heavier than normal, but in a grading out of a 10, it was still 8.59 out for scoring. Like it was, the scoring honestly, was still unbelievable there, right?
Yeah, and I think the reason why you see those scores the way they are, I don't think it has anything to do with the house at all.
No.
I think that's when you started to see that 18-month layoff.
Yeah, the pressure,
when you
pushing.
Have 5, exactly. You have 5 people that are averaging over 300 after 4, and then you see the final being 2,300.
2380. 62, yeah.
And then, like, there
was 3 of us over 2,300.
Yeah, just 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, only 9 over 22, which again is probably less than we expected. So,
but that's good to have 9 over 22. That made it a lot tighter than what you were thinking originally. We were bantering back and forth, thinking there was going to be guys over 25, right? Yeah. So if that was the case, you would have had 4 or 5 guys that are basically locked. I mean, from that one tournament. I mean, that's hard to say, but I mean that's the reality of it. But having only 23 and a half and your 9th place at 10th place was what made a big cluster. And then on Sunday, you had a few guys that had big days. Tyler had a monster finish 3, right? That was a 1072 triple or something like that, guys. 388, 380, 330 something. Yeah. And that's huge.
Yeah, with only 2 guys over the 2,300, right? So it essentially, you look at the 2 tournaments, they played pretty close to the same.
Yeah.
So,
and Sherwood Park almost higher, and really some sides that has got to be optimistic for anybody coming into TPC. Coming up in 2 weeks for you guys to get some practice in there.
The highest score was higher from Sherwood Park, but consistently, I mean, like I said, there was 9 people over 22. We had 1, 2, 3,
6,
4.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
guys
4.
in Sherwood Park over
Yeah.
22. So there is definitely
Yeah.
a disparity there. It isn't anywhere near the Body Dune level of stuff, but scores to be had. There's some changes to be made, but there's definitely scores to be had there for sure.
And there's going to be, I mean, there's going to be lots of competition coming down the road. It's not locked in. There's a 10 or a dozen of you that have a chance. So it's good to see. And on the ladies' side too, there were some good scores on the ladies' side.
Heidi played
Oh,
very
absolutely.
well. Heidi
Heidi played
awesome
really
on the
well.
weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Diane almost won. Diane almost
Yeah.
won another one, Bonnie did. And you know that was we talked about on the podcast how many times black base is 17 inches. It doesn't help a slower ball thrower. And at one point, I think I looked over at Diane and she had 7 corners in a row.
Yeah.
Oh, is that
Now,
right?
now I don't know if they're all great corners or whatnot, but regardless, 7 corners in a row, right? And then
Hopping over.
yeah,
But,
she's
but
can't
then
carry
she
anything.
found something. I watched her game 1, and yeah, it was the same thing, Tim. It was like 7 corners, and she is the ultimate professional. She found something. She goes 351 in her third game, winning a singles pot, which were huge, by the way, and that just tells you how hard she works at things too, because it is tough on 17 centers and black bases to carry corners for the slower ball speeds, but she found a way there and averaged 270. That's just a lot of
That's
pitting.
awesome. That's amazing for Diane.
It is,
Good for her. Right?
Absolutely awesome.
Yeah,
it's
she
cool to
played a
see
lot
now,
better at Bonnie Dune.
as we get across the country Masters results. We're happy to chat about other provinces and other results or tournaments or stuff like that that's going on. So do we know of anybody else having a first one yet?
I saw
I think
Manitoba.
BC was going on too.
BC went for sure.
They went on the island. They were playing at Duncan and Brecken.
Right.
Yeah. I can't tell you. I think Dakota won one. I think Jordan Schuss won one.
Okay.
I can't tell you both of them entirely. And then I know
So on Manitoba, they only play 6 games, which is interesting.
because they went by the hourly rental out there. They changed it over there.
Yeah.
So they.
But
Yeah, that's right. Ryan O'Callaghan saying here, Trevor Cook and Ryan Bourne had a couple of huge weekends.
yeah, they played great. 1873 for 6 for Trevor, and 1837 for Ryan Bourne. Unreal. And their numbers are great. They had 30 guys. The
Yeah.
ladies are less at 12, but I mean that's pretty solid numbers coming out of COVID.
That's for BC.
That's for sure.
Kevin.
And maybe if
and
anybody's
Bob.
ever putting their scores or their on Facebook, maybe they can tag 5-Pin Universe when they do, right?
Yeah.
And then we can share it on our site, and then then we got that information. So if anybody's listening and you had a Masters event, tag 5-Pin Universe on Facebook on the results page would be great.
Yeah, there was a couple of people asking where they could find the scores from Sherwood. It's on the Tournament Masters of Alberta's Facebook page.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
the
will
Tournament
be,
Masters. Yeah.
they
Tournament
will be
Masters.
posted. They will be posted to the website once they're just verified by Rita, and away we go.
So
Yeah.
the reason why it's only 6 games in Manitoba, Kevin, from my understanding, the proprietors out there went by an hourly rate, and so they decided to keep it cheaper and cost effective for the associations. They decided to cut 2 games instead of 8.
And in BC, Jessie Bailey won the first day for the ladies out of Brecken, sorry, and Kevin Heisler
Yeah.
won as well with 23-42. The next day, Bobby Herman shoots 22-47 in Duncan. Well, I guess they got those backwards. Pretty
No,
sure
definitely.
Duncan was first day and Brecken was second.
Anyways, and
That's
then
the
Dakota,
island, wasn't it?
And
So
Dakota,
they played
And then
played on the
Dakota.
island.
Oh no, that is right. And then Dakota shot 22-81
yeah.
to win hers as well. So good to see Bobby Herman out shooting.
What? Hey,
Oh,
what about Damian McDonald's kid from Calgary, Paradise Lanes? Didn't he shoot a high score from Paradise YBC there?
He did. I saw something too. I did, but I don't know what the score was.
All I know is that kid is a bantam and he's averaging 190. They said right now.
Wow.
It's unreal.
We saw Rob Wolfson had a 400. Shout out to
Yeah.
Rob.
410. Yeah.
410, yeah.
Let me pull it up here. Yep. So Lucas McDonald shot a 318, and he's a bantam.
Unreal.
Wow.
Unbelievable. He's better than his dad, that's for sure.
So I guess we're reaching that mark where we usually bring on our guests, but we have a little special minute from one of our.
We got to frame where and why, Tim.
Okay,
I'll let Tim discuss
for
it.
sure.
Yes.
All right, so I have a little write-up here. As some of you guys might already know, I lost a bet to DB on Thursday.
Oh no, they don't know this. Tell us more about this bet. What was this bet about? Tim?
Okay,
What was the bet for?
If you want your minute in the shine, you have to be
No,
quiet.
no,
Okay?
people need to know the information.
I will. Here,
Yeah,
I got
curious,
this.
Tim. I don't know what's going on.
Okay,
Yeah.
here, I muted Daryl. Okay, so some of you might already know I lost a bet to Daryl on Thursday. I kind of maybe ran my mouth off about how much better I am than he is. So I will admit that maybe I put my foot in my mouth. Lost a head-to-head match with him. I'm supposed to give him a minute of compliments since I lost, but in my defense, he was playing with his wife Sue, and I really didn't want to show him up. So let's be honest with that. I only shot a 600 on the nose, and I actually picked a corner for it. So for all you listeners out there, as many of you guys know, I've known DB for my entire life, almost over 25 years. I've seen him grow as a person. From a sunshine boy, yes, he tried his luck for love in a newspaper article, to a belly button ring. If you guys all know, I don't think I even know a guy who wore a belly button ring in my life. Maybe that's something he can discuss. To a guy that had his nickname to Popeye or Skinny D. Well, it's probably Dad Bod D now, right? So DB's taught us many things growing up. First cash term we played Pillow Fuckface. We almost lost some teeth, but jokes on DB, he got lost in the hotel room bathroom soon after. In all seriousness, he was a huge influence in me getting an association. He was the one who gave me the reins at E5 at 25, and I wouldn't be there if he didn't give them to me, so thank you, Daryl. He has an amazing family, man. He loves his two girls, Jade and Paige. He has a wonderful wife, Sue, and I don't think she gets enough credit for handling Daryl the way he is. And obviously BBG and his amazing work in the community. The company has taken the sport to the next level and rebranded it. But in all fairness, I can't wait to cheer you on in a few years when you're 50, when you're playing senior masters team, or maybe the senior WCBT. Maybe you might have a chance to win at some point, bud. So we got you, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Was that? Yeah. Was
I
that a
don't think that
punishment?
counts.
or-
Do it again.
Yeah. Well done,
Write up
Timmy.
another one.
Yeah. Good job, buddy. You'll learn
Well-
not to chirp next time, because I beat Dexter, but Dexter had to send in a spare too, but I beat him, and I beat our other podcast crew, Adam Weber. So yes, yes, I'm not just an interviewer. I can beat people too. Yeah.
Up to that point on Sunday when I got my spare, I was 15-1 in Sunday match.
Is that
But
right?
there was no way. There was no way I was going to be there.
Wow.
Or 14-2. Yeah, something like that. No, 15-1. Yeah. Or 14-1. Yeah, I had a tie against Tim.
But, I mean, really, what's with the belly button ring? I've always wanted to know.
It probably had a link to his other piercing.
Yeah. Let's just say
Just
it
had
worked.
chain to it.
This is not 5 Pin After Dark yet.
Yeah.
Let's
I think we need to let's get to our guests now. We're
Yeah.
When we get to our guests.
we'll pay some bills here. Of course, you can become Patreon or become a patron of 5 Pin Universe at patreon.com/5 Pin Universe for as little as $2 a month Canadian. We are most thankful for these people that are donating their morning coffee to us once a month to help us produce a podcast that is as silly as it is, but helped produce this type of media, and hopefully, obviously, there's a few people that enjoy it and have joined in and are helping us out. And then, of course, to All Star Bowling Sales, they are our weekly sponsor. We don't get these out every week, especially with bowling coming back, so we'll get them out as much as we can, and we're doing an All-Star Draw giveaway once again, so hashtag All-Star Draw. We'll run their quick commercial, and we'll bring in our special guest. So without further ado, somebody that is taking on a project for her university courses in sociology. We can't thank her enough for coming on and helping explain this, and so we can help spread the word for people to sign up. I know she's still currently looking for people. It's totally anonymous, but without further ado, we'll bring in Michaela Turner.
Hello.
Hey guys.
Oh.
She looks so
Hey.
formal too in the classroom, right? Like,
I have a 100-pound dog and 2 cats at home, so my dog's a very big people dog, so as soon as I start talking, she's like, hello, and she like pushes my arm out of the way to try and like talk to people. I had to run an library information session this morning, and I had to hold my one cat because she kept running across my keyboard, and the other dog's trying to check it out. I'm just like, I gotta leave.
You need doors.
Yep. And Tim, that was a very nice best man speech you had there. It was very good.
it was kind of had the both of the roast and the toast. Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard some of Tim's best man speeches before, and they've been good, but this one went far smoother than the last one. That's for sure.
He hasn't been day drinking all day.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
that's fair. Yeah.
Oh. Man, those YBC bantams, I was like super happy just to like get over 100 in bantams. I was like, that was my goal. And then there's like, I was watching nationals. My mom took a team to Quebec that one year, and like these kids are like bowling with one hand in form, and like I'm just like, I was between my legs and happy if I broke 100.
Totally.
Yeah.
That little guy we were talking about, the only thing that kid cares about is like seeing the back. He just wants to see the machines. That's all he cares about. So apparently his motivation is Mark tells him, hey, if you shoot 200, you can see behind the machines. And Mark walked over to him, and he was like, this little guy was just mid-conversation with me, and Mark goes, do you want to see the back of the machines? And he just stops, goes, yep. And that was it. That's the only thing he cared about. He just wants to go back there. It's so funny.
Done, ready to go.
It's neat. We've seen some kids that were like amazing. I mean, Mark who averaged like 200, 210 when he was in Bantam, and then kind of petered out from there. Stayed at 220, 230 after that. He had his moments of brilliance too. But you talk about the young guys with amazing form. I mean, we talk about him lots, but Tyler Tickett. I remember watching that kid when he was a peewee throw a 5-bagger with absolute perfect form and zero emotion. Did not get excited about it at all. Like it was like an old hat at it. And it was like, this is unreal. It was the craziest thing ever. So it's always cool seeing those young guys do so well.
Yeah, one of my friend's kids, he was in 10-pin, and then he moved to 5-pin this year. And because with 10-pin, they're bowling with one hand and the ball's heavier, so he's got that dexterity even though his hands are tiny. But yeah, he's throwing one-handed with form, and all the other kids that are almost in juniors that are still bowling between their legs are like, and he's just like this little 6-year-old that's like, wee, he has no care in the world. He's just happy to be here. It's practice. He doesn't care if he gets gutters or whatever. He's just happy to be there, and It's great. He's got a great attitude.
That's awesome. That's perfect.
We before we came on here, Michaela, we were getting to know you a little bit, and you were starting to talk about. We asked, "Have you watched any podcasts?" And
Yeah.
your answer kind of concerned us a bit, but then we got to talk a bit more. I'm like, you're kind of one of my new favorite people here. So where did you start with podcasts from us?
I started with Taylor. I made that mistake, and Taylor's always an interesting guy to talk to. He's a nice guy. He's just everything comes out of his brain and his mouth at once. So he's a very interesting guy to listen to.
Yep.
So
That is
super
the perfect-
analytical of the game
Yeah.
too, though.
Yeah.
He understands the game very well. He's very well spoken about the game, but yes, there is no thought that stays in his brain.
yeah,
Because you know obviously Taylor, and you bowl with him, and you're from Northern Ontario, so
yeah.
just so I know, do I need to get a tally sheet or anything like that for tonight, or you're probably gonna keep it pretty clean, aren't you?
Yeah, because I'm on here for school, so my supervisor might ask for a copy of this, so we'll be nice today.
Wow.
Way to go,
Who's
Tim.
Taylor?
Not my problem.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, my husband also was like, remember, be nice. And I was like, yep, I love you, bye.
Yeah.
Well,
Get that warning a lot in public, like that mom look, but he does it to me, and I'm like,
he knows all of us. You'll be fine. You'll be absolutely fine. Yeah, for sure.
Taylor's coming. They're coming out to TPC, aren't they?
yeah, I think so. I think John Wilcott will be as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought Greg was crazy bowling that weekend, and then he shows up on Tuesday, bowls 4 more, and then bowls again on Wednesday, 3 more, and I'm like, how is this guy's arm not falling off yet?
And he's not in peak physical condition, right? I mean, he's not like he's training for it or anything like that.
But yeah, he's a machine, and I just don't understand how he does it.
What is peak physical condition? Maybe that's part of your thesis or later on, right? What is peak physical condition? Look at Dexter. Are you telling me Dexter's peak physical?
Dad
For
bod.
a 5-pin bowler, yep.
That's right.
Snyder and Kreitz and Evan Lecoussier and Bradley Titkat. Look at the guys who finished top 4, boys.
So
You might be able to finish 16th. Yeah. You might be able to finish 16th.
I'm just rolling through the top 16 here, trying to find your name, Daryl.
Oh yeah, no.
Oh shit.
Oh no.
hey, Greg, I still love you. It's okay, bud. I'm right there with you. Hey, but you do have to notice though, 6th and 7th with me and Greg. So,
But you know what?
2 for the good guys right there, right? 2 for the good guys.
It doesn't surprise me Greg was able to come back and do all that because I mean the guy throws the ball so effortlessly. It's just so fluid. And
He's a machine. He's a machine, and he's so accurate, and it's a very smooth ball to watch. Greg's always good to like watch, especially like when you didn't grow up with them and you now are bowling with them and you're watching them and you're just like, damn, like it's so crazy because the coaches that they had versus the coaches we have is like very different growing up, and like he's a great bowler.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, if you watch him play singles, he doesn't expend a lot of extra energy. He sits down in between every shot. He doesn't get mad. He doesn't get excited. A lot of people refer to him as one like the most boring person ever to watch bowling because you can't tell. You can't tell whether he's mad or happy or what.
You're looking for an FU too, Dex. I can get that there too soon.
But I mean, no, I said most boring person to watch bowling, not most boring podcast person.
I mean, you guys, people are very different with league and in tournaments.
No, you're right.
Really good interview too. Really good interview. Yeah, that's right. Now I'm gonna get a fuck you, DB.
You put them on a team and it's totally different. I mean, the singles and team game is a completely different scenario altogether for sure. But I love this podcast has turned into just a roast. This is awesome.
Like I avoided singles growing up. Like I didn't even go into the qualifying for it. I was always a team bowler, and that's where I preferred to be. And then like I actually bowled my first ever singles national event was at the Open in Thunder, like at the Masters in Thunder Bay was my first like singles event. So and that went pretty good. I tied for 4th, so it was pretty good. So yeah.
That's awesome. We see that you have a national gold in teaching ladies, right, for the Masters?
It was my rookie year in my hometown, you know, so that was like I always hated bowling provincials, and in my city I always preferred to bowl out of town or in a different bowling alley, just because like at that more I felt like I had to focus more out of town because I don't know what I was expecting for lane conditions and all that. So like I very much preferred to bowl out of town, and I felt like it helped my bowling a lot better too because you're out of your home environment. So like when Nationals was in Thunder Bay, I was like, cool, I get to save money, but now there's a lot of more pressure here. I didn't have to like pay for flights or anything, and it was just like okay. And then like, you know, bowling in your home city, all of the volunteers are your coaches and people you grew up with and your proprietors there. And I also work at Mario's Bowl too, so like my boss and all my coworkers are watching me, and all my family was able to come watch, and it was very different. And like provincially wise, I went to a lot of provincials growing up. Like my provincial record's pretty good, and it was just a completely different environment from for Masters for teaching division. Like the Open is so stressful, and I felt like the Masters teaching division was like really lax, and I had a lot of fun versus me being really stressed out. So I think that helped a lot. And I also didn't keep track of like my singles. So
Yeah.
I didn't look at who the singles were. I told my coach, I don't want to know. I'm like, because I had Irene Charette was my coach, and she would break it down like, oh, they're giving you 23, or you're giving them 16. And that's all I wanted to know. So I didn't actually look to see where I was for singles until I was going into the last day, and I was like tied for first. I was like, huh, cool. Okay. And then it was just it was very relaxing. It was really weird for a national environment because it was in my own home city and I had all my friends and family there. And like, it was really funny because when we were bowling at Mario's, like for some reason, everybody was just the first game. It took everybody a lot to try and finish that first game, but I had like a high 3 and everybody's like staring at me like I'm crazy. And everybody's like, how are you? And I'm like, I bowl here. This is my center. And my boss is in the background, like, and then like one of my coaches was the judge of play, and she's sitting there going, and like every time I'm like all heavy on the middle, she's like, I'm like, Tammy, you can't do that. You're judge of play right now. And everybody's like, and then we were in our gold, like the very, very last game of that tournament, and the live stream died. So everybody else that was there from Northern Ontario could not watch the last couple of frames because the iPad died. And my dad's on the phone because he was on his lunch break, and he's like, yeah, my kid's about to win gold. I'm going to be late. And then my mother-in-law, so Philip's mom, Philip was also bowling this tournament. She was supposed to leave to go watch Philip that day, but she just stayed with us the entire day. And Philip's like, hey, Mom, where are you? And he's like, yeah, I'm watching Michaela. She's doing better than you right now, so I'm just going to stay here. So, like, that was super funny, but it was just a very different environment bowling in your home city because, like, I bowled in Calgary and, like, Moose Jaw and Ottawa, so it's very different.
Mm-hmm.
I think it means a lot more, too, right? When you can win at home. And
Yeah.
I also think the loss hurts harder too when you lose at home.
Yeah, and like it was really nice too because I had there's a coach that had my brother for YBC and they won bronze, and so I had been to more provincials and I had been to more nationals with my brother, and she was just like, oh, like, so you haven't medaled and you've been to more nationals than your brother, and she's never been able to like make it to the Masters herself. So it was really nice to walk up to her and be like, so how's that rookie gold look now? And walk away. So that was really nice to do at the end of the day. I know she was just bugging me, but I had to bug her back. So
Totally.
it was fun.
Yeah. Daryl is right, though. I mean, playing at home is a different feeling. I know Daryl was hurt in 2015, right?
Yeah, sure. That was for our provincials.
Yeah, when you guys lost. I've never played at home ever. I never played a provincial or national event ever at home. So
me neither.
Yeah, we played open provincials and we lost, I think, by half a point, honestly, or 1 point it came down to in the end. And we were down early in the tournament, and huge team. Matt Schultz, Brett Wren, Adam Weber were on the team, and just a second, third days we just started steamrolling back. First day was terrible, but steamrolling back and got ourselves right into it. I think the last day we were 8-0 or maybe 7-1, and it came down to the last shot, and we won 7-1. But the guy, he struck out the last frame to beat us.
Yeah, Baker.
And it was like, oh, and it just hurts, right? Because we worked so hard to get back in. Being a Sure Park, it's just one of those ones that would have been nice to cap off, right? Just a win at a hometown.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like Thunder Bay, that like that's gonna be it for us for nationals because we lost Superior Bowl, so they're closed. So all we have is Mario's and Galaxy. So we don't have enough lanes to host anymore. So it was good. You know, got gold in your home city. It might be the last time we ever host a nationals for 5 pins. So unless we get more lanes or convertible somewhere, but it's pretty good.
How many lanes is Galaxy?
With the convertibles, I have no idea. I think
It's got to be close to 30, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
But they're not very well maintained to kind of keep that going. So
Yeah, they had some struggles when we played there for Masters there, but
Sam says we have enough lanes to host and opens nationals.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Is that Galaxy? Sorry, we're talking in Thunder Bay.
Yeah. Galaxy and Mario's. Yeah.
Where's the Elite League in Thunder Bay? Is that at Galaxy's or Mario's?
Yeah, we're at Galaxy. We were at Galaxy for a while, and then we moved over to Superior. And now after Superior closed, we're back at Galaxy. So it's a good way to practice there because.
And is it a good competitive league? I mean, a lot of the Northern Ontario people, that's where everybody plays. Taylor and
yeah, Taylor, Greg, Wes, Sam Satar, Alyssa Bonney, John Wilcott. Everybody's kind of there. So.
Yeah. Good job, Ryan.
Yeah, you have to have a 200 average to get in the league, and then it's a kind of draft system. So we have 12 teams, so it's a snake draw. So you go bottom 8 picks first, then back down. So
yeah, losing Superior was a big loss to the community out there for sure.
Yeah, Brian and Lori were really amazing proprietors. They cared about the lanes, they cared about their bowlers, they cared about 5-pin, and it showed a lot being there. Like the bowling alley wasn't obviously in the best location in the city, but like they cared so much, and they deserve that retirement, and I'm glad they're enjoying it, but like we're gonna miss them.
Yeah,
and it's nice to see Brian back out bowling because he spares for Alyssa. She bowls for 2 weeks and he bowls for 2 weeks, and they flop back and forth there, so Brian's getting back into it now, so it's good to see him.
Really liked playing in Superior for nationals there. I like unique places, and I mean, Superior is definitely one of the more unique bowling centers there was with the ball returns and stuff.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Superior had the ball returns for 1 and 2 on the right hand side of lane 2.
Is that like a Skona?
Yeah, it's against the wall.
3 and 4 is between 2 and 3. No, a little bit different than Skona. So Skona they had a ball return for lane 1, and then they had a ball return for lanes 2 and 3, ball return for lanes 4 and 5. This one had the entire sets on one side, and then they were like side by side with the other sets. So you'd have like
there's no ball returns in the middle of the lanes.
Yeah, Daryl, it was it was like Skona, Daryl.
Yeah, thanks. No. I'm pretty sure there was just an echo in here, Tim.
Tim, were you paying attention at all?
I was paying attention.
Yeah, like all the coaches from Superior always joke that their kids had really good lane courtesy because there is no ball return separating. Like separating is just like open and then open. So
there's literally points where there's 4 lanes, just lanes. Because the way the ball returns.
I like. Isn't that a great idea though for designing a center? I mean, you have your ball return for 3 and 4 on the right side of 4. The ball return for 5 and 6 is on the left side of 5.
Yeah,
right.
But it's really tough for teams because you got to walk in behind everybody, grab the balls, come back. You usually grab 2 and leave 1 on the score desk so that you didn't have to do it again. It was unique. It was fun though.
I'm gonna step out on a limb here and say that's probably not the most best design for a bowling center.
I'm pretty sure it was a space design.
Unique was a good way.
Unique, yeah.
Yeah, like what Sam said, like at Masters, like we thought it was the funniest thing watching everybody try and figure the ball returns out, and like there was people like every single team member would go and grab 3 balls and just stand behind the team holding them. We're like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, like it was quite funny watching everybody try and figure it out.
Yeah, Daryl, you can't fall over a ball return now.
Yeah,
but no, not like Skona, Tim.
Okay.
I fix your ball returns at Sherwood Bowl every time I move lanes. I fix the ball returns. They're always off center and always moving this way, and
it's always the people booting them.
Yeah, bad attitudes, kicking the ball.
Well, no, I think it's more. I think it's more of like Mark Doss, like leg kick out sort of thing.
Yeah. They have to be so straight for me because I don't like it when it's not straight and it's off to the side.
Or
I gotta fix those. That's the OCD in me.
Well, don't you know it's the ball return's fault if you throw a shit ball?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your fault. It's the ball return's fault.
Yeah. Damn straight.
or the carpet that's not cleaned on the side of 16.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get some. Let's move on and have some fun here. So obviously, Michaela, you've what's next in your bowling? So obviously, competitive this year. Are we doing Open, Masters? What's in your world for bowling competitive this year?
I was actually worried about coming into this year because I really severely hurt my knee in quarantine in 2020. I was super graceful and tripped over a coffee table and dislocated my knee and put my kneecap behind the back of my knee, and it got stuck there.
Oh,
So I was in a leg brace from crotch to ankle. I couldn't bend it. I had to sleep in that brace, and it's crazy to watch your muscles just like disappear.
Yeah.
So I had so much, and it was my sliding leg too. So I was just like, oh no. So I've actually like this year has been so good so far. I'm averaging 230 in both of my leagues. So I threw an 823 triple last night. So it was good, but I am probably just going to do the Open this year. I'll still bowl the Masters so we can get as many kids as we can to come in bowl. Because like with Northern Ontario, we do Masters really differently compared to everybody else. And my house in particular will pay for all your tournaments for the whole year, including your registration, except for provincials and nationals. So if you come and coach the kids, I think we have to have like X amount of hours that like works up to like half the year. So they'll pay for your registration, midwinter, master bantam, and master junior. So you get, that's like incentive to come and do that. But I will for sure be bowling at least those three, because everything for Northern Ontario, I think except for YBC, including 10-pin as well, is in Thunder Bay for provincials this year. So we'll be doing that. So just got to get as many kids out as possible. I like bowling with the kids. I know lots of people maybe don't, but I like it. It's a lot of fun.
so I still can't really get my mind around the fact that your kneecap was in behind your knee.
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
a trigger
I was
warning
stuck
for
on that part of that.
Yeah, and it was super great because I was like helping my sister-in-law at my mother-in-law's house. Like Philip wasn't even there, and I had to like, it took them like 30 minutes to even get me in the ambulance because of course I tripped and fell, and then I fell into a squishy couch, so I couldn't get out of the squishy couch to get into the stretcher to get me down the stairs and then into the ambulance. So that was like super fun, and like I learned that my body digests or like goes through morphine very quickly, so that was super fun to learn. But yeah, so it was just trying to like get physio back, and like getting back to bowling just like was super scary because like in the summertime it's super humid in the lanes and the approaches get sticky, and because it's my the foot that I slide on, it's just like I was so worried that like if I stuck, like that's it's gone again, because in the process of me getting the x-rays, I had to go to fracture clinic. I learned that I'm genetically missing the other muscle to keep my kneecap in place. So instead of having two, I'm missing the inside one, which is, I called my mom and I thought it was hilarious because I have broken my knee. Like I was super graceful, and I tripped up the stairs and broke my growth plate in between my knee. Not even my actual knee. I broke the growth plate on a carpet nail falling up the stairs. So during that x-ray, nobody figured out that I was missing the muscle. So that was, my mom thought it was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious. So super graceful.
Glad you could find the humor in it.
Yeah.
What do you have to do about that? Do you have to wear a knee brace just to make sure that it doesn't pop out? Or
I went and did a lot of physiotherapy. I go to the gym a lot, and I worked for the census over the summertime. So I was like walking like 4 or 5 hours a day. And like I can kind of feel when it's getting sore. So I just pop a brace on it and I bowl. And I have Thunder Bay, there's a guy who owns a shoe repair shop, and he makes our custom shoes for us. So I actually have Nikes that I've turned into bowling shoes, and I have stuck that like Brunswick slider over top of that shoe when I feel sticky. So I just really make sure that I don't overdo it, because I was just powdering the shit out of my shoe all the time. So everybody's like slipping and sliding on the lanes. I'm like, I should probably not do that anymore. Just everybody skating around.
Yeah.
So
That's how you play defense in 5-pin bowling.
well, I always like Fridays. Me and Philip bowl Tuesday night majors is our competitive league. Then we bowl Friday mixed at Mario's, and that's just our fun league. We have fun. We bowl, and we always joke that it's because like I always drop it and it like powder goes everywhere, and everybody's like, "Oh no, the cocaine! Don't waste that."
Friday night, let's go.
No wonder you bowl with Taylor. Like, that makes total sense.
Oh yeah, it's lots of fun, and it's always funny because we always joke about like You could probably hide drugs in those because the amount of times I've been through an airport with my bowling bag and nobody ever looks at that pouch that's literally white and powdery is hilarious. Like I very distinctly remember in 2016 when we were in Calgary, Newfoundland had already gone through security because everybody's obviously wearing all their jackets. And then, like we get through security and my brother had the old Star Lines that had the core in them. Yep. So he gets beeped through the x-ray. And my brother, like, I don't know, he was like 13, 14. And so like, they're like, what's in the bag? And he's like, they're bowling balls. I'm with them. And Newfoundland had them too. And they're like talking to him. And like, my dad's making jokes in the background, like, shush, like, we don't need to get like sent home, a tournament hasn't even started yet. But like, and again, like, didn't check the powder bag. They're just looking at his bowling balls and they're pulling him out and like, looking at them and like putting them through the scanner again and like wiping them down. But like, that sliding powder thing always gets missed. And
yeah.
So
we've learned you go directly to oversized luggage. You put your bowling balls down, they scan them, and you tell them what it's for, and they still check everything. They wipe it for drugs. And
I know.
We're at least at the point where, like, when we do that, though, there's usually, like, a solid 20 or 30 of us going through the day. They're like, oh, another bowler.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a bowling tournament going to Regina.
Yeah.
Going to Regina.
Yep. Yeah, but like Newfoundland had already gotten through, and they're all like, we're all wearing the same thing, like purple jackets with the Northern Ontario on them, and like we had all gone through because like that year every single team was from Thunder Bay. And every single team was from Mario's except for the senior boys. So like we were all from the same city and we're all like looking, and my brother's like freaking out, and they're just bowling balls, like we promised. Like they're a little bit different. And I think Amanda Nichols had the problem with the Perfect Game Award, like trying to get that through the airport because they wanted to open it to double check the insides of it, and they're like, please don't.
The novelty ball?
Yeah. They wanted to open it to make sure the contents inside, and they were like, please don't. This is like a very prestigious award. And they were like, well, like, can't be like sure. And they're like, please don't. So
what were they gonna do? Cut it in half?
Yeah, like see what's in there.
It's clear.
They're gonna do that. They're gonna do that to Gall's Starline, and we say, like, go ahead, we're gonna miss the flight.
I've been stopped for my Starlines too, way back.
Yeah. It's just because of the core.
That same national too, like we're coming home from Calgary, and one of my coaches forgot her purse in the hotel, so she had to go back through security, and some idiot had a fold-up throwing star in his wall that he was arguing with security of why he couldn't take it on the plane. And like we're gonna miss our plane because like all of us were like pretty much of age. Like I think I was the only one on that team that was like 18, but maybe no, Ashley was also over the age of 18, but like the rest of our parents had earlier flights, so like these coaches were like our chaperones to get home, but this guy's like arguing with security of like, why can't I take the throwing star? It folds up and goes on my wallet. They're like, sir, this is a weapon. And he's just like, but it folds up. And they almost missed the flight coming back. I always have very interesting stories of what happens at nationals, of like the weirdest stuff. It was super fun.
We need to write a book on travel stories of bowling travel stories that have happened.
Oh yeah. It like crazy stuff happens. Stuff happens.
Let's go and tee up this whole project that you're working on, Michaela. I think there's some good stuff to chat about there. Obviously, a lot of us saw on Facebook you sent a note out. You were looking for some feedback from competitive bowlers. You're doing your masters. Yeah, so maybe cue it all up. How did this come about to be? Where did this come from? What can we do to help? And walk us through this whole fun project that you're working on.
Yeah, so like I wasn't actually intending on doing my master's degree at all. I was like, all right, like getting through high school was hell, and being in school sucks. So I was like, all right, I'm done. So I was in a foods class for sociology out at Roots to Harvest. We weren't even like on school property, and we're all getting ready to leave and packing up and helping our prof get her stuff in the car. And one of the girls that was in my class was like, oh, I'm going to a pool league at a local bar. I was like, oh, cool, I'm in a bowling league. And she was like, oh, tell me more about it. So I'm like explaining to her like how it works. And she's like, oh, do you start as a kid? I'm like, yeah, you can. So I'm explaining to her like YBC Youth Challenge, the Masters, the Open, the WCBT stuff. I'm kind of like running through of all these different things. And my prof overhears me and she goes, you could study that. And I was like, what? She was like, that would make for a really cool study. Like you guys have, and she goes, you know, like how do you build relationships through bowling, and how do you guys know each other? And because like me, because me and my husband met bowling. It was our first youth challenge is how we met. We met on the bus going down, and like all these different connections and tournaments and like how we're structured is very interesting. And so she was like, you can study it, like go apply. And she goes, go try and find a supervisor. And so I was like, okay. And I applied like really last minute. I think I only had like 3 days left for applications. And then I guess she thought this the bowling stuff is super interesting because she was talking to other profs about it. So I went to a meeting of how to fill out the grad application stuff, and you have to have a supervisor to apply. So I was like, and each professor has like a specialty. So I was like, I wanted to go ask one of my favorite profs, but she doesn't take master's students. So I was like, she just gave me a letter of reference. So I asked her, I was like, hey, like who can I get for my supervisor? And she goes, go talk to Tony. I said, okay. Before, like, I walk into his office and he already had a bunch of reference stuff printing out for me before I could even ask him. And he's like, sign me up, because he did a curling study very similar, not curling, chess study very similar to what my bowling study is. And he was super interested in it, and he was super excited about it. And he's like, yep, sign me up. He goes, here's my study, read it. And so applied. And then the first year of your master's degree is basically just getting your courses done, and then you submit your proposal and you do ethics board stuff. So as I was doing my first year, you have to, like, I had so many ideas because like this is my community. I've been here for 15 plus years, right? So I have all these ideas. So it was the process of trying to like narrow stuff down. And like obviously we didn't know COVID was going to happen. Like my whole plan was to do an ethnography, so that's putting yourself in with your participants and being in the environment and watching. So I was going to come do the WCBT and the opens and come and do that. But with COVID, due to ethics board regulations, we can't do any in-person projects right now. So that was like right in the middle of me writing my proposal, because we got that very late notice. So it was like, oh my God, panic. I have to change my entire project around now and figure out what I want to do. And like, I was just so excited. I have all these ideas. We're like, hey, we got to narrow it down, and like throw stuff out and throw stuff in. And like, as I'm talking to him and explaining to him about it, and he was like, you know, why do you guys like hang on to this for so long and like go from like maybe like 3 until, you know, you're like 80 years old? Like, why do people hang on to this for so long? Like, it's just a sport. And some of this competitive stuff, you're paying hundreds of dollars to do this stuff, especially for flights and hotels. And like cash tournaments aren't like, none of this is like an obligation. Like, you don't have to go do cash tournaments. You don't have to do the Open. You don't have to do Masters. You don't even have to coach. But some of these people just dedicate, you know, their entire lives to this sport. So he was like, look at that. And like, he thought the co-ed aspect of bowling is just so interesting, because like other sports, it's a men's league and a women's league, and they don't mix for anything. Where bowling, most of our leagues are mixed. Like in Thunder Bay, like we don't really have a men's league or just a women's league in Thunder Bay. Like if it is, it's usually like the 55 plus bowlers, or you know, it's not really meant to be a men or women's league. It's not solely, it just sometimes ends up that way. So he thought that was super interesting. And so I you know, wrote everything out. And then, you know, my whole goal with this project is to like, you know, learn something new and maybe, you know, teach everybody else who's been in this sport longer than I've been alive for something new as well, and learn something cool and see why we function the way we function. And super, super cool. And yeah, that's kind of how it started. It started off as just a conversation, and then, you know, I got the push to go and do it. And, you know, and actually, Ryan, the beer thing, I had as I'm talking to my professor, he's like, so like how does like drinking fit into like the aspect of bowling? And I was
significantly.
Yeah.
Our provincials work a little bit different than everybody else's. Like, we can drink at our provincials. Like, there's no rule like you can't drink through provincials. Like, there's some teams that solely just come to drink and have fun because they know they're not going to place. And like, he's like, really? And I was like, yeah, because like in BC, I was like, well, we got excited because beer was $2.50 for a glass of draft, where in town it's like $6. so it was like candy to everybody in BC when we went. And so like like telling him that, he's like, man, he goes, there's so much here for you to study, and like I have all these ideas, and he thinks they're all amazing. And like now he's like, okay, so when you do your PhD, I'm like, whoa, let's get through this first. Because like I've been in, like usually some people take like a year off or whatever. I have been in school from JK until now. I have had no break. So if I do my PhD, I will be taking a break before I do a PhD. But I will, if I do one, I will study bowling again and, you know, continue on further. And like, it's just so crazy to me because like, obviously I have all these academic libraries I can go through, and like, I'm trying to find any article on bowling in general, like even a 10-pin article that talks about like bowling, and there's nothing. And I'm like, wow, like there's literally nothing here. So I'm really hoping.
If you're looking for like older stuff, I think Tim's got lots because Don Sim's given quite a bit of stuff, so we could probably help out with that. But anything recent, it's tough finding recent stuff.
And it's also tough finding studies, like academic resources too, as well. Like I can pull all the articles and the videos that I want in the world, but if there's no academic studies, so like one of my main goals with this project is to get academically published, so bowling is put out there in this, like, so when people look in sociological like this, there is sociology of sport as well, and get that in there and show that we are just as interesting as hockey or curling or tennis or soccer or whatever, right? So that's a main goal of mine, is to get published. And there is a lady who did a really interesting 10-pin study, and I would love to work with her and maybe do a paper on the 5-pin versus 10-pin debate in Canada, because that's pretty big as well, and do a study with her, and she's from England is where she did her study, and this bowling alley she studied in is incredibly cool. It's 2 floors. The competitive bowlers bowl upstairs, and like just the regular fun league members bowl downstairs. And it's you have to have like a membership club card to get upstairs. They won't even let you upstairs to watch without one. So
like,
it was
you need a clearance pass.
Basically, yeah.
Nice.
So, and like she did like a study on like why these people bowl and why they come bowl, or why they came back to bowling. So that was like one thing I was able to use for a reference. But other than that, there's really nothing. So it's gonna be a fun time. And you know, like I got a really big response within the first like 48 hours that I posted it, because I posted it pretty late at night, and I was like, I will, you know, email more people in the morning. I just want to get this out of here, because ethics board took so long to get through. So I'm like, I need to get this out here, because I feel like I'm not on track right now. So I was like, man, I gotta like get this out here, get it done. And then I woke up, I had like 80 shares, like C5 I already shared. I was planning on emailing people in the morning, and it was just like really, really great, because one of the issues with ethics board and with my professor is they were like, well, how do you plan on getting this out there? And I said, our community is very amazing for that. We are very great at helping each other out. And, you know, like we have, like, there's people who have really awesome connections that help each other move, or like, oh, come stay at my house the next tournament, you know, like, and make really long lasting friendships. I'm like, I'll be fine. And it was amazing, this response off the hop and everything. And it was really awesome. And now I just got to work on getting more participants and getting some stuff done. So
I think that's what's super exciting about it, is that you are taking, you know, the sociological perspective from it, from studying the behaviors and the personalities and the relationships in behind the scenes, than you are. I mean, obviously we've got some comments here, really good references with Tom Patterson, and you know, his books that he's done a little bit more on the skill side, probably some mind stuff too, but obviously you know about those references.
Yeah.
You know, Walter Heaney, people have mentioned as well, that he's done a lot of you know, articles and writing, and of course, you know, recaps those now on Facebook. Don Sim for the old days, some of those, again, statistical stuff. But I think what's super exciting is the mind and the behavioral and the sociological perspective that I think you're taking to publish something into the journals about stuff. It's a bit of a different angle than anybody's done before, and you're obviously well qualified to do something like this. So it's I think it's a lot of people are happy and exciting. Now, I know you mentioned earlier, and we'll mention again later, a lot of people have signed up. but also then the requirement for a consent form is important for everybody. So remember that, people, is that when Michaela sends you back a consent form, you need to sign those, check those boxes and sign it off. Otherwise, she's not able to do the study with you individually. So
Yeah,
keep
and
that in mind.
make sure when you're reading the consent form too, the consent part is in the 5th page, it's the last page, and there is like I think 3 things you have to fill out, and people are sometimes missing the bottom one, so make sure you get back to that. And Ryan, I haven't done any interviews yet. My first one is tomorrow. I wanted to get on here to get more people on the podcast. I think I only actually have like 5 people who sent me their consent forms back, so I can only do five interviews right now. So like I wanted to get more people before I start emailing for interviews. And so, and I don't have anybody from Quebec. I finally got somebody from BC. I really hope I get at least one person from Northwest Territories. And then I only have a couple here and there from every other province. I think I have like one per province. But
what would be your target number or your goal to get? Are we talking as many as you can possibly get, or you're like, if I could get...
I have to limit it. So with a master's study, I'm only at max allowed to do 40. So my goal is to do 2 men, 2 women from each province. Obviously, if I don't get anybody from a certain province for whatever reason, I'll open it up to whoever else wants to email me. And it was really awesome. So I was expecting Northern Ontario, obviously, to fill up first because that's where I'm from. But like Susan McCarthy from Newfoundland shared it to Newfoundland. It was like, boom, PEI's emailing me in Newfoundland. Like I had the Maritimes fill up within a day. And it was amazing. And I still have lots of spots too, because I have people just email me but never sent me the consent forms back. So I do have spots open. And like I said on my post, like if for some reason I get like 8 people that email me with consent forms back, and I'm just going to do a random draw of like who they are. So that way I'm not picking favorites, right? So like, I don't want to like have in Northern Ontario where like I just pick people from Thunder Bay. So like Sudbury and Kenora are like, well, you just right? So I want it to be fair. Yeah, that way I'm not picking people I know.
And that was going to be a question is, are you looking for, the WCBT rankings, the top 5 ranked players, or are you looking for a cross section of the top 100 or 200, or what demographic of people are you looking for? Somebody that's really top of their game, or somebody that's trying to get into the ranks? Or,
It's anybody who's actively participating, Masters, the Open, POA, the WCBT, any sort of cash tournaments like that. Just people who are in the competitive aspect of bowling, because like everybody has their tournament that they prefer to bowl, and like some people only bowl the Open, some people only bowl cash tournaments, so like anybody who participate in those are welcome, and it's great. So it's fun, and because like I talking with my prof and talking about who I want to narrow it down to, and he thinks the competitive sphere is a lot better than just doing casual bowlers, because he's very looking forward, because he thinks that my study is going to blow that 10-pin study out of the water. And he's like, he goes, we have to do it, because I was like, do I just do Northern Ontario? Do I do Ontario? Do I just pick a province? Like, how do you think this is going to work? He's like, nope, we're doing we're doing all of Canada, we're doing 40 people, we're doing like, he was super set, and he was just like, we're doing all these, get as many as you can. And he goes, competitive bowlers.
You talk about 40, we automatically think of, we've got 175 people coming to TPC, different bowlers, right, Tim, or Dex, something like that, right? So, I mean, the 40 should be able to do in the drop of a hat, right?
Yeah.
But if you go more, obviously it's more time commitment. You're an hour and a half per, your number of hours into this project gets to be pretty big, right? So, yeah, you've obviously got to decide on who to do or random, but there's definitely, as people are giving suggestions, some amazing people across the country that can give insight on different subjects and different things. So
yeah, and like everybody has different levels of where they started at. Like I didn't start peaking until like my last year YBC, because I pre-bowled the whole year, showed up for qualifying because I was bowling in the majors. Because with Thunder, like just where I was personally in YBC, like where I bowled at Mario's, I was the oldest in the league for women, and the next person behind me was 2 years, and then that was 4 or 5. Like everybody was really, really younger than me, so there was no Not that I'm saying that there weren't good bowlers there. It was just that level wasn't there for me. And I knew if I wanted to get better starting adult league when I turned 19, I needed to go to the majors and I needed to start bowling competitively because like it was very weird where the age gaps are here in town because like I only bowled a couple years with Alyssa Bonney, but I never bowled with Katie Bonney, Sam Sitar, like Wes Swallock, Greg, Taylor. Like I would see them in passing, maybe at a tournament or like on the bus when we were heading somewhere, but like I never got to watch them bowl. We were never in the same division. So I knew if I wanted to get better, I needed to move up. So I did that and it paid off really, really well. I bowled, as soon as I started in the majors, I bowled my first 400 and that was the third game into my first ever Opens qualifying.
Nice.
So it was really awesome. And then I won the Masters the year after that. And it was just trying to get myself into that competitive swing there. And like I was really lucky because my team for YBC was a bunch of special needs boys. So it was super fun going back to YBC and bowling with them because I've known them since like we grew up together, right? So it was super, super fun going back to YBC when I was there. So it was lots of fun. And my 408 too, I wasn't even paying attention because that was the best part because I had a friend that came and come and watch me, Ashu Bakari, and we were just like talking and throw a ball and talking and throw a ball and talking and throwing a ball. And I wasn't paying attention. And like my last frame, I threw a left and I spared it and I walked off and everybody's got their cameras out and was clapping. And I'm like, what's going on? They're like, that was your 10th frame. I was like, oh, throw the ball 5. So I was just like, okay, that was cool. And, you know, like a lot of people in that qualifying didn't know me because I never bowled with them. So like, I think I scared a couple people into that qualifying. Like, hey, I'm here and I'm here to compete. So that was super, super fun. But I know everybody has like different journeys of how they started competitively. Like some people maybe didn't bowl until they were adults.
Yeah.
So thanks, Sam.
That was a nice dig. Yeah.
I did beat her last night, and she was my captain. So, and she hasn't sent me her consent form back.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've even got lots of people in Northern Ontario right nearby that could do this. So, I mean, I think we're all supportive in the project that you're doing and willing to be part of the survey, and a lot of people across the country. So, get your consent forms in.
Yes. Contact Michaela. Don't expect her to track you all down.
Yeah,
Contact her.
And please don't message me on Facebook. My Facebook Messenger will not like pop up that I have a message request. I have to physically go and refresh it every time I look. But yeah, email that email. Also, I should have put it on the form, but I didn't. Let me know what province you're representing because I also know people move. So like, you know, like I grew up with Johnny McDonald. He went from Newfoundland to Saskatchewan, right? So like people move. So if you want to represent the province you grew up in, or you want to represent the province that you're bowling in now, so that as well.
Right.
I think it's really great you're doing this, and I think you're right by going with the competitive bowlers. I mean, obviously we're pretty biased, but I think the community that we have as competitive bowlers is second to none. So if you're being sociology, that's definitely the area you want to study for sure. It's super neat that you're doing this. I mean, there's lots of studies around where you talk about the mental side of the game, and you could talk about, you know, the psychology of the game, but and it's very comparable to golf and things like that. But it's super neat that we're finally going to have some sort of study on the community side of stuff, because that I really think is the strong suit of our game. It really is.
Yeah, and it's you know, how we have we have associations and stuff like this. People people don't realize how deep and how much planning this takes and how much dedication it takes, like especially if you're like, you know, averaging 300 and winning all these cash tournaments, like one of the big names in, you know, bowling. And, you know, it's quite interesting, especially because, you know, if you're just starting out too, you know, like learning about this stuff may push you to, that's my goal too, is, you know, hoping to, you know, push more people to try competitive. I did want to do the interviews in person. I really did. But because of ethics board restrictions, I am not allowed to. It has to be through Zoom. So it's gotta go through Zoom, which is gonna help. But I gotta go through after the interview's done and like redo the transcriptions because it already doesn't pick up what you're saying half the time anyway, and a Newfoundland and Quebec accent's just going to be
I
really,
was
really
just
great
gonna
trying
say.
to figure out. Like, even like when I was bowling the Masters too, like for rookie night, I got asked if I could do rookie night with the Newfoundland team because they were short people, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll compete against my husband. Why not? That's super fun. I'm a competitive person, and like I remember Courtney was talking, and she was like, "Oh, I spared a plug today," and I was like. And I'm like listening, trying to figure out what she means, and she was like, and then they were like, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "Oh, like, put the middle through," and I had this side swing over. I was like, "Oh, you spared a head pin." Okay, I'm on track now of what you're talking about, so it's just going to be interesting trying to get that transcription.
It's like the Alberta cherry.
Yeah.
Nobody realizes the 3-pin is a cherry in Alberta.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So, are we going to be able to read your transcripts and everything else afterwards, or?
That will remain confidential. I will, because what people say and who is saying it. If I need to quote somebody, obviously they'll be using a fake name. Everybody will be assigned a fake name.
Right.
And I'll just quote like, "Oh, this person from BC said this about this," and I will be posting the study once I am done with it. And I have on that consent form if they would like a copy of it to leave their email, and I will email them directly the study once it's done. But I probably won't be done probably about like August, September, because our being in a master's graduate program, our year works differently. So like an undergrad would do school from September to April. A master's program is September to September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like something that's going to be done overnight here. You've got 40 interviews to conduct. You've got to...
Yeah, and then I have to go back and fix everything that gets said on that transcript.
And this is a master's that we're doing here. This isn't a kindergarten report, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the quality of it needs to be a little bit higher. So
yeah. Well,
yeah.
My supervisor is a theory prof, and that's like his thing. He loves doing theory. He's a very, very smart man. So
yeah.
So he'll be really great.
You had mentioned earlier there's a number of different categories of the research and the interview that you can do. And can you somewhat walk us through maybe one question from each category without telling all that the four of us could then maybe answer, just to run through something? We're not going to get through the whole interview for all four of us, but let's just go through some of the questions.
Plus, our anonymity is not really there.
No, but I mean, maybe some of the questions are yeah. You can't see me, can you? I'm comfortable with sharing my answers for people to see. I'm not comfortable with an entire hour and a half, but there's some things that I'm comfortable sharing.
Yeah, so I have like an interview guide, so all my questions have gone through ethics board and they have been approved of what I ask. I also, if for some reason something pops up that's super interesting that I'm like, oh, I want to elaborate further on that, then I will ask another question that's not in my guide. But I have 6 parts to my interview guide. So part 1 is I'm going to ask you getting involved. Part 2 is development of individual versus team identity. Part 3 is defining motivation and rewards, small team dynamics in competitive sport, gender dynamics on the co-ed aspect of our sport, and then 5-pin uniquely part of Canadian culture is my last section there that I have. So
very cool.
Yeah, it's very different.
Very
so here part 1 is just 2 questions, but one of the questions I have is what made you guys start bowling competitively?
For me, I was always a competitive kid in any sport that I did. I had 2 older brothers, and I started bowling at the age of 5, 6. Somewhat naturally gifted at all sports, and bowling came fairly easy to me, that I was able to quickly progress to being one of the better bowlers within my YBC league. And the drive to compete and honestly to beat my brother, who was 2 years older than me, was the first thing that drove me to compete. And then, started to see then from, you had your intercities in Edmonton, we had an intercity rep. So once you hit your bantams and juniors and seniors, it was playing against other people across the city. And that's how even deep relationships were formed. I was sort of I always bowled every year, but I didn't always tell people I bowled, and somewhat used to say as a teenager I was forced to bowl. My parents forced me to bowl, but secretly I loved it, right? Because I was, again, good at it. I was a really good soccer player when I was young, so that was the one that I was, and volleyball, played club team, played provincial team, same as soccer, provincial team. So bowling was sort of my third little one, but secretly it was the one that I probably liked the most because, again, it was my own individual performance. So as I got into, later on in teenage years, that's when the cash tournament started coming, right? And then that's when the social side of things started to see across the country in all these KG tournaments or, the Rose Bowls or, the Autumn Opens I started playing at 15, 16. So knowing that there was going to be a long future, and you could see people right away, 50, 60, 70 years old that were bowling it. So I knew that I could do the sport for the rest of my life and always do it. Whereas the soccers and the volleyballs, you would sort of hit a peak and you got to start to take a break. And I did that, right? But I always knew that bowling is something that I could do forever and can compete at it. So the competition level came really early to me, and wanting to keep playing and keep competing.
It's kind of neat. Even Daryl, just listening to your, like the question seems so simple. Like, how'd you get into competitive bowling? But yet there's a huge backstory to get to that situation, right? I think it's the same for everybody. Kind of the same lines for me as Daryl is. I was real active in other sports. Unfortunately, our family didn't have a ton of money, so we got to choose one, what you would call an expensive sport, and mine happened to be baseball. It was summer, lots of travel was involved. So my winter sport couldn't be an expensive sport, and bowling was cheap at that time. So that was my winter sport. My brother got the other choice. He played hockey and then played school sports in the summer. So just with that aspect, my parents both played and go through YBC, and like Daryl said, you rise through the ranks fairly quickly. I had some, I guess, mentors or better players in YBC that were just ahead of me, like Mark Johnstone. Mark Jackson happened to play in the competitive league. Gino did. And they bring you up through the YBC, right? They're there coaching you on your YBC, and then they ask you to come play scratch after. So you just follow along, and that was my introduction to competitive bowling, was just being introduced into the sport, succeeding fairly early, and then being asked to follow along with probably the best players out of our center or out of our town and stuff like that. So yeah.
I can remember, the YBC days on the coaches, Carrie. After our YBC, we would play a game against the coaches, and we put $1 in or $2 in, right? So you'd have the Rocky Morrows or the Wally Bridgetts and the Ernie McClellans and Jim Bradshaws. All the coaches would then put their $2 in, and I would play a game against them, right? A couple of the YBC guys, Scott Rice's and Chris Hislops, we'd all get to play a game. So there'd be $12 in the pot you're shooting for, right? And just that little subtle way of playing for something and playing a match and trying to beat your coach was huge, right? I'm sure that a lot of us did a similar way.
Mm-hmm. We were lucky. Our Monday YBC was kind of our big YBC league. We just played scratch right after, right? Monday scratch was the big league right after YBC, and then there was a fun league after that. So you played 10 games on a Monday. That was kind of the YBC career for me, John Stone, and us idiots.
For us, we started when we were 8, and we started bowling when we were 8, I should say. And I don't know how super competitive we were our first year of bowling, anyways. My mom worked at the bowling alley, but we played indoor soccer, and they had changed the rules for indoor soccer where you had to pay to sign up for, obviously, but then they made it so that the parents had to pay every time they had to go watch them play soccer.
For admission.
So,
yeah.
And they were literally charging admission for my parents to go watch them play soccer for something they already paid for. My mom's like, not a fucking chance.
If you know my mother, right? So
that was the 17th Street Soccer Center, for sure it was. Yeah,
it was. We were in schools.
Yeah, for sure. Remember that?
Yeah. So they pulled us from that, and they said, you're going to go into bowling. And the first year we didn't play all that great, but the second year we made 4 steps. We ended up going to provincials. We ended up coming in 3rd in provincials, and then I remember being like, okay, sweet. If we came in 3rd in provincials in our second year at Bantams, you know what, maybe we could be good at this, and maybe we could make nationals next year. And then we got some good coaching. That really helped. We had Tom Stevenson coach us, and that's a huge part of our competitive background. But I think a large part of like us being competitive is that we grew up with a great group of like 5 or 6 bowlers that we constantly competed against each other. And for whatever reason, I've always felt like I've got something to prove from like the time we were in Bantams, and we had some negative comments that were probably a mistake by people at the time. But it drives you. It's like, okay, I'm going to get better. I'm going to prove these people wrong. And then, you have that group of 5 or 6 people, and, you think that you're good, but, one next time, somebody all of a sudden takes a step, and they're 10 or 15 pins higher than you, and they're like, nope, screw that. I'm going to be better than that. And you just keep finding your way along. And even as I went into the Open, my first year of the Open, I was first year at a YBC, and I basically I hardly got to play at provincials because I wasn't one of the veterans, and I played very well, and I know that was a mistake too, but it definitely was like, okay, you know what, you've got something to prove. You need to make a name for yourself, and then you get higher up there, and certain people make comments about your rankings and stuff, and you're like, all right, I got something to prove.
You only have one more turn. You only have one more turn before Adam takes you over, right?
Pretty well, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, you just always find like the little things to just motivate you, and I think we've had that since we were kids, and it's just always something to prove. Try to be better than everybody else.
I completely agree.
Yeah, I you know what, with mine, I don't want to let it go to his head, but my competitiveness is honestly a lot to do with Dex. I wouldn't have participated in a lot of the events because I just played. I just bowled. He told me, he's like, oh, TPC's coming up. Didn't know what TPC was. I said, why am I spending $200 for an event? I just rather just spend it on a game or something. No, go play. I was like, okay, so I spent my $200, right? And that's how I got into cash tournaments. Same as you challenge. I just played the bowl, and a lot of the times, when I was, unlike when I was making fun of Greg and myself earlier, I was a very athletic person when I grew up. I was good at a lot of sports, so I was really good.
He would run everywhere. The guy would never stop running. He would run everywhere, and now you can't get him to run. Yeah,
but I was athletic, and I was naturally gifted in a lot of sports, and I just picked up bowling very well, right? And so I just naturally gifted to it. I think, unlike a lot of people out there, I think the reason why I am competitive is a fear of failure. I think what it is. Does that make sense? I hate failure, and I don't want to be a failure. So I will always find a way in order, and I'll be competitive in order to not be a failure. Does that make sense? There's always a way. I don't know. That's how I always feel that I am, right? And maybe that's not a chip on my shoulder. It's me personally. That's how I always been in competitive. It's not. Am I competing against, as much as I'm playing a match against Kerry or Dexter or Daryl at a match, I'm playing against myself more than anything. And if I'm playing well enough, I'll win that match. I've always been that way. A little bit different view on a lot of things that way, I guess. But again, right place, right time, like Dexter mentioned. We were with Tom, and we were with a lot of other greats like Bruce and Diane and Gino and Lynn and all those other people out there. And Daryl was there as well. And we did right place, right time. And we learned the sport really well at an early age.
Yeah, how old are you guys now?
Once we got our feet wet in it, once we got our feet wet into the competitive side of stuff, we had the right people that dragged us along through it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What year were you born, guys?
87.
So you're 9. So I would have been working at the bowling alley when you guys started bowling as 15, 16, right? Yeah, and then I remember when Tom Stevenson came in, and he definitely picked up the entire center in the Sunday night leagues and some of those guys, right, to play. And all you did have a really good group of young YBCers coming out together, which was a huge difference for sure.
Yeah, like for me especially too, like I always did swimming or soccer or baseball, and I was very athletic as a kid, and I was getting sick of the swimming and the soccer and the baseball. So my mom was looking through like the key that comes out with a whole list of everything, and she's like, "Do you guys want to try bowling?" And my dad was like, "Oh yeah," because my dad was a 10-pin YBCer from Southern Ontario, and he was like 10-pin, and me brother were like, "No, let's go to 5-pin." So off we went, and like for me, I've always been very competitive. That's just like who I've been. I love like I don't like losing, so I love the aspect of it. And like my like third or fourth year into bowling, I went all the way to nationals, and I remember it was like my first or second year bowling. I was the backup for the 4-step team for I don't know if it was bantam or junior, and I had practice. I had thrown practice balls, and it was like minutes before this tournament started, and the girl who they thought wasn't coming came, and I was so devastated, and I'm like, I'm never missing a team again. So from there on, it was just bowling, bowling, bowling. And then I think a big part of the competitive aspect too is how you do in YBC. Because if you don't pick it up in YBC and you're not good in YBC, you know, like what's that motivation for you for adult league? That's a big aspect as well. Because a lot of people didn't do well in YBC just because they had all of these great people above them that they had to compete against. And, you know, in like Northern Ontario, like my situation was very different because like all of these great people were 10 years older than me. So I couldn't even watch because they were in a completely different division. So I had no idea what was going on there. Right. So it was just the fact that like, you know, I really liked it and I was good at it and I just kept pushing. And then like a lot of the good bowlers that were like in my division just got sick and tired of it and dropped out. And so like my ranking got higher and Sam, almost 10 years older, you know, and so it was just that. And like getting into the competitive sphere too, like, you know, I didn't know a lot of people. So when I joined the majors, I was the youngest. So I was the youngest in that league walking in that year. And it was a lot of people didn't really talk to you because they didn't know you. And like, you know, you're trying to make relationships with these people. And then we ended up having a very dramatic year at the Open. And that was my first Open. So after that provincial, you know, the relationships with the people that bowl the majors and, you know, grew quite a bit. And so that kept motivated. And now I was in C division for the majors for the longest time. And my average was like sitting at like 215-ish. And I really like bowling against men as a woman and just like coming out of the gate and then just seeing them like shit a brick. Super fun. And it's a lot of fun because like, you know, I didn't really have any of these really amazing people that came to coach. Like none of the big names that, you know, that could have been there that didn't come to coach. So like I didn't really have any big name coaches that came and took me under their wing. It took me as an adult to put myself in those situations, to put myself into competitive. And after that, it's been really, really fun and meeting new people. And, you know, like Youth Challenge was my first interactions with the Tiggets. And I was anchor for a lot of me growing up in YBC. That was just my position and I loved it. And I remember me and Tyler were shot for shot at Youth Challenge until the last frame when I hung a corner pin and he beat me by like 2 or something like that. And it was like a really good match. And like, you know, because Tyler, like I had no idea who he was because I haven't bowled with him that often. And I think Tyler's a couple years younger than me too. So, you know, so like seeing him like come out of the gate like that and like trying to keep up with him was super fun for me. And it's a lot of fun. And now I was talking with Sam too, because Sam's my captain on Tuesdays now. And I was averaging really well before COVID hit, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be in B division. Like, oh, I'm like freaking out. And she's like, you need to get there to get better. And I've been consistently averaging 230 now. And it's been a lot of fun and it's been really great to get better at. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's funny talking like about YBC and, you know, what, you know, whether their success played into, you know, carrying on into the adults and stuff like that. And it's really funny, especially at the younger ages, bantams for us, you know, we made nationals when we were a bantam and instantly hooked. Like, I wanted to be there as often as I can. I'm motivated to be there every year if we could. The other side of it too, though, especially at the bantam age, is we know people who made nationals as a bantam and never wanted to compete again.
Yeah.
Never wanted any part of it because it all depends on how you handle that sort of pressure. The girl I'm talking about was a highly competitive and high end ringette player and loved it, but did not like the national experience, did not like the pressure that came with that, and but it's a different kind of sport too. You know, ringette, it's, you know, you can go out there. She was an enforcer. She should go out there and she would hit people and run around. You could do all those things and get the aggression out, and it's more of a reactionary sort of sport as opposed to what our sport is, and it's a completely different kind of pressure. So I think it's interesting talking about that side of stuff.
Yeah, I was actually going down a different route in my head when Dexter brought that up about bantams and bowling and YBC being successful. I think there's two different ways. If you're successful in YBC and when you become an adult, it can obviously create you confidence and get you on the right path. I also think it can be a detriment sometimes too, because especially if you're like a big fish in YBC with the way the numbers are, and then you go to the adult ranks and all of a sudden you're a small fish in a big pond. It can be very disheartening, I guess you can say, right? And I think it's a bigger, steep learning curve, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, like for me, like I know they changed the rules for YBC now. You have to be 8 to go to nationals and compete in like I know it's not called 4 steps anymore, the 4 steps events there. And like for me too, like, you know, missing basically my last year of YBC, going to the majors, I was at the bottom of the barrel again. And I was like, I'm not staying here. I am going to climb my way up, but I'm not going to be like, oh, the person who comes in after, like, you know, being a YBC kid and, you know, just going to come in the majors. I wanted to, like, get up there and be like, hey, like, I will be a good draft pick, you know, come and pick me. And we did really well. So,
Okay.
yeah.
You would try, man. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. You guys were going on the YBC thing. So that kind of brought up an interesting question I kind of thought of, is how much do you think that is they didn't get hooked on the national experience or the success of it, or life just kind of gets in the way, unfortunately? Because in my YBC days, like, obviously Mark Johnstone was a year older or 2 years older, but then we had a big group of, there was like 6, 7, 8 of us that were super competitive. We make the 4 steps teams, the challenge teams and stuff like that. And out of that group, I'm the last one playing. None of those players are playing anymore. And even you look farther down into our YBC program, Eric Chose rings a bell. He's the next player out of that whole YBC group. There's really me, Johnstone, and Eric Chose out of that whole YBC program, one of the most successful YBC programs in Central Alberta for a long time. I don't know if it's just success wasn't the issue, or maybe it was the issue. We never got to go to nationals and it just didn't hook those players to keep playing, or if it was just life that gets in the way, or like Tim said, they're big fish in YBC in Central Alberta, and then you hit the adult ranks and all of a sudden you're finishing last at every Masters tournament, and that deters you to play anymore, right?
And I think, honestly, you're right, Kerry. I think it's a lot. Maybe we're not doing our due diligence in encouraging these people or helping them out. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Sometimes I know people are going to drop out regardless. I've always thought about it, but how many times, like, and I'll say this in the Edmonton zone, there's a lot of kids that came out that were hot shots about 10 years ago, and they were like, I'm making the open team, no one's going to beat me, and you know what, they tried out for 3 straight years, bottom of the barrel, and they never played again, right? And maybe we should have done something better, or helped them out, or encouraged them a different way, or maybe that was just their way of the path, right? And I don't know what that is, but we see it a lot, right? And I understand, because the other thing is schooling's big, like, yeah. Exactly what, you know, what we're talking about right now. School becomes a big factor, and then, you know, there's other things in life. Tyler's dealing with it right now, right? I mean, Tyler's going through school, and he's trying to balance bowling and everything else like that, it makes it real tough, right? So
I think that's something to be considered too. Is for as many people, and I talk to the guys at the Automotive, as many people there are across the country that bowl, the people at the elite level, the higher WCBT, if you will, level, is a very, very small percentage of the people that bowl across the country. You're talking 0.001% of the people in Canada are on tour. So that's the elite level of people that we're talking about. 100 people, if you will. Sure, there's maybe 150, but give or take, so 150 people call it. That's as high as you can get. And there's 10 of them from Alberta, 10 of them from Saskatchewan, 10 of them. So you have to be the top 10 within you might be really good in your own city, your own good in YBC. But once you get into that big world, you're not as good anymore. And it takes a lot of work to be that level for that long too. And it takes, life comes in the way. There's lots of reasons for it coming in the way, but it's such a small group that we're talking about here at the highest level of the game.
And when you get to that point, when you're at that point where it's like, hey, like this is, I'm not at the highest level of the game anymore because I moved out into this. That's when you're faced with a choice, and your choice is either you're gonna make it a priority, and you're gonna put in the work, and you're gonna find ways to improve, or you're not, right? And then it doesn't just happen.
I think it's going to be neat to see this. Yeah, I think it's going to be neat to see the study to understand the mental side of all these competitive players and why they're still involved. Like you said, there's going to be an overlapping thing going on for sure. It's going to be a drive. Yeah, exactly. I really think so, because like a lot of those players I was talking about in YBC, they were easily better than I was, and they had a lot more talent at it, but they didn't have the drive. And a lot of you guys bring up the schooling issue and stuff like that. Yeah, there was a mixture. There were some people that went to school. There were some people that went straight into the workforce. There's a ton of different things going on. It was just the drive to continue on, I think, is the main deciding factor on all of it.
And like what I've noticed too as well is like, especially with like my generation of kids and watching the younger kids, a lot of parents figured out, their kids are good at bowling. I'm going to make them come practice 3 times a week. Yeah. They're going to bowl in every tournament. They're not going to bowl in any other sports. Kids need other sports to focus on, because a lot of couple of bowlers that I grew up with that were so good, were so sick and tired of their parents dragging them out to practice 3 times a week that they quit. And like with a lot of the, like with you guys, with the top WCBT players too, versus like me and Tyler's age group, we don't have careers yet. We're still in school. And now, right now too, like my husband too is at that problem right now where, people want 5 years experience before they can even look at your resume, right? So he's working contract work right now. And if that's his only way to get in for that 5 years experience, he's got to sacrifice bowling to get a career, because once that career is established, then bowling's fine. So it's just one of those things right now where like, the job market, everybody, it went from just you can work whatever, and then to, nope, we need you to have high school. Nope, we need you to have high school and college. Nope, we need you to have high school and university. And now people want master's degrees, 5 years experience. Like it's crazy just trying to get, in there too. And, like I have a parent that his kid was very close to quitting YBC. And when I went to Moose Jaw, everything was in Regina, but our bus went to Moose Jaw that year for 2011. And I bought they were like little moose and stuffies that had like necklaces on them with names. And we actually found one with my coach's name on it. So he was Mitch the Moose, with Mitch Parker as our coach. I use that moose and I stick him with my bantams in the middle of the lane at the arrows. And they have to try and hit Mitch the Moose out of the way. And I did that with kids, and kids were having fun coming to bowling now. So I had kids that were going to quit that now stayed. And like that competitive aspect too, my brother was very close to quitting. He was like, I'm done. I don't want to bowl anymore, because he had to come with me to all my provincials. He had to come with me to my nationals. So he was like, yep, I'm close to quitting. I don't want to do this anymore. And then he made nationals, and he was like, I'm staying. So it just depends. It's different for everybody, especially what province you're in too. Like compared to like Northern Ontario to you guys, like you guys have way more people to worry about to get on a team for anything. Where like sometimes in Northern Ontario, like there was my first year in the Open, we didn't even have enough women to make a mixed team. We had to hold a second qualifying to get enough women to make a mixed team. Where like some areas it's just so hard to even touch a mixed team. And like I feel like the competitive aspect too with averages and stuff has like completely dropped. Like I think I my first year trying to qualify for youth challenge, I threw like a 217-ish average. I didn't even touch a mixed team. Where like now if you look at that, you're like, man, I would have been like first place. Like, you look back at the scores that you had to what's happening now, and it's just like, as a coach and as a competitive bowler, you're like, how do we fix this? How do we get more kids wanting to be competitive and, try out for these? And like youth challenge, we barely have any kids signing up for youth challenge anymore. And there was one year, one of the centers forgot to tell their kids about youth challenge. So we were missing an entire center of kids because they forgot to tell their kids about youth challenge. So it's
only one of the biggest events of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a question. I don't know. Maybe it's we're talking about being competitive. Maybe for you guys that play on tour, or even Masters or the Open, is it about building resumes now? Is it about building your resume in a way? I mean, like let's be honest. You want to have your gold medals. You want to have your tour wins. You want to have your master wins. Right. I mean, let's be honest. I think that's what we've got in, like, at least in Alberta. That's what it sort of feels like a little bit, is building a resume. Yeah. But the only person I had a discussion. I was talking to Greg about this on Monday, Gig Luck, right? And the only person out there that I think that never ever cared about anything, and I don't know why he was even competitive. Makes me, well, not why he was, but it makes you wonder. It was Bruce. Just never ever, like, nothing ever defined him when it came to bowling, right? He could take it or leave it. He could, and he could walk away from the sport when he was ready, in a way,
I don't know if you have a biased look at that. I've seen Bruce
upset,
super frustrated with his personal game. This isn't a team event. It was at an individual event, right?
But
so he just didn't show it.
I
know. But
he's a super competitive guy.
Yeah.
But I think the interesting thing, and it's something that Tim could touch on too. But I don't know how much he was like really worried about building a legacy when he came in and he literally handed us all of his awards.
But
I
also,
don't
guys,
need any of this.
He already had it built.
His legacy was already built before you guys started getting competitive, right?
Yeah, no,
so
for
his
sure.
6 tournament wins, his number of wins. So
Totally.
he was doing at a later point, not building a resume. He was doing it at a later point for enjoying the game and love of the game, right?
But
he already knew that he had cemented in one of the best of all times with guys like Fraser Hambley, right? That had outstanding resume. There's 3 guys that maybe would come to your list for the top of all time.
But right? I don't think I just don't think bowling ever defined him, right? Does that make sense? I don't think it ever, like, he could. It never was. It wasn't on his tombstone, right? Let's put it that way, right? I don't think it would be that way.
But to answer your first question,
but
Tim,
for us
about,
now,
like,
I think that's what it is now.
For sure, because we grew up with those people, and so we want to be held in the same esteem as people like that, as Gino and Mark Jackson and those people. We want to build a legacy. We want to be ultimately, people want to be remembered, right? And this is our way of being remembered.
Yeah, by stats. Sometimes you remember it by stats. For me, there's a couple of things on the stats that I'd like to knock off. So yeah, building a resume is somewhat important by the time maybe you're 50, right? You want to make 20 opens, or you want to. I'm not a Masters player, a number of cuts, or maybe a cash tournament. But I also recognize that my numbers are never going to be as high as any of your threes. So I measure my stats in a different way than your 3 from a statistical standpoint. So part of mine is the give back, is the Edmonton 5-pin, the A5, the C5 I sat on the boards, the WCBT, the 5-pin U stuff, the shirts, So sure, in a way, that's my measurement and my legacy eventually, 20 years from now when this game's maybe when I'm done. But I got a long ways to go, a lot of things to do. But it's not about building a resume. It's giving back and doing the right things. And at the end of that, sure, your resume looks pretty good.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, and no, that's an interesting take. I like that, Tim. I think you're right. I think a lot of the people probably playing on tour now with the WCBT and the tour finals and stuff like that. Obviously, we've kind of instituted that, right? You have to have a resume to make it to the tour finals. You got to place in these tournaments, and even the C5 has instituted that. You want to make the Hall of Fame, you need to build a resume. You need to be a part of this. You need to do that. So the culture has built that into what's going on. When Bruce was playing at the best, there wasn't a Hall of Fame. There wasn't the top 100 was released kind of thing. So I don't know if it was so much about building the resume. It was just literally when Bruce was at his best and Lynn and all of them traveled. It was about bringing home money, right? Bringing home money for the next vacation, bringing home your own accolades for yourself. So it wasn't so much about building your trophy wall. It was more of about hanging out with your friends and doing that kind of thing. We've kind of switched that around. We've built it into that kind of culture now. Like, let's build your resumes. Let's get you into these tour championships. And
50 years from now, when this is still going, and we've had the WCB tour for 50 years, you can look back and be a guy made 15 tour finals. He's average numbers. I mean, the statistics that we can come to and the resumes that we can build in the next 50 years, because I feel like the groundwork is there, is now there.
Yeah.
Right.
So Don says, how many 20th century great bowlers do you remember? Well, Don, I remember you, and I remember actually Don threw the perfect game in Thunder Bay. I believe it was in '83 in the Open. He won out there.
Nice.
So yeah.
But you're right. I mean,
20th century, it's literally everybody in the top 100.
Yeah, well,
That's
the 80s to the 2000s, 80s and 90s. Sure, a bunch of us remember. I mean, we could go through those lists of those guys, but we don't remember the 70s and the 60s and the 50s and the guys that came before us and pioneered the way and played on the original wood lanes and all the, the counter pins and all these all-time greats. No, we're totally remiss to not know those names, Don. Absolutely.
Yeah, because there wasn't a structure to put them on a pedestal to show them across the country. Well, actually, there kind of was, right? Now we have this 5-pin bowling board game that was dug out of the basements and stuff like that. That there was a player on the cover of it, right?
Yeah. Let me see if I can find that again.
So there was stuff that I guess it just wasn't continued. Maybe it lost money, or there wasn't enough money behind it to continue building those people's resumes, if we want to call it that, or market them and stuff like that. Yeah, for sure. Right? You don't need a lot of money to market somebody now. We have social media that expands all of Canada. And
perhaps a cool project that Don Sim would want to be a part of is, let's profile 20 all-time greats that would have bowled pre-1980, right? And let's go through some of these stats that these guys would have played. And Don Sim, you're a great person to chat with. Walter Heaney's and these guys that, a lot of them out there that can talk about some of the great players from the 70s and 80s, 60s and the 50s and those guys, right? Like Frank Levine, absolutely, right? When all the tournament titles, Frank Levine was the one who first 5 of every tournament, Autumn Open, TPC, or Rose Bowls. Like, his name was on everything, wasn't it?
So this looks like it was
Autumn
done,
Open for sure.
This looks like it was done by the actual lanes. So 1961 Allen Court Lanes did this, but it's a dice game for 5-pin bowling, and if you sent in 10 cents to the lanes, you can be part of the Jimmy Holt fan club. That's definitely drinking beer.
Yeah. That's a great thing, is to memorialize these all-time great bowlers that have played in forefront. We've got the deck of cards idea, right? There's lots of ideas out there to make sure that they're remembered, and the people that have played the game at the highest level before us to be recognized, not just by simply saying top 100 of all time. How can we build on that? right?
Yeah, and with like social media and stuff too, and like speaking of like financial constraints too, like a lot of people may be amazing bowlers in their provinces, but don't have the money to go do the WCBT, and they've got time, like they have to budget their time off when they use it. And like I know 2020 last year, Philip and I got married, and we were like, what tournaments do we want to do? How are we going to budget our time off? Because we need time off for the wedding. Do we want to do the Open? Do we want to do the Masters? And then we were like, Philip wanted to do the Open, but was like, you know what, like Masters makes more sense because it's paid for by our proprietor at the bowling alley because we coach. So I'm like, you got to sacrifice a lot of stuff, and you may have these people who are like great bowlers that just don't have the finances to get to the WCBT and stuff that want to be on those lists.
Yeah, and the 8-gamer came from that.
That's right. That's exactly why we do the 8-gamer, so that people can play in their locals. And I'd like to see that, continue modified in a different way. But that's exactly what it is, of getting this, the people out there. And then once they play, they get the taste of that event, they want to play in the TPC coming up, or they're going to be like, I'm going to come to Regina, right? I never knew about this whole world of cash circuits, but you're the best in your own little Dawson Creek, right? And now the guys, right, the Latondras, they're in, right?
Yeah, that's right. Now they're all of a sudden they're at the Autumn Open. They're coming to the TPC.
Yeah, Philip and I would be watching the WCBT final matches that were getting put out every week, and we're at Friday night watching these. And people are like, "Oh, what are you watching? Like, where is this? What is this for?" And oh, like go check them out. Like, you can go watch old past matches. Like, people from Thunder Bay have won this. Like Taylor and Greg, and Taylor and Greg are on there, and like people that they would know, and especially with my YBC kids too. Like some of them, I have a couple kids that copy any form that they see around the bowling alley. If it's a 10-pinner bowling, they're like, I'm going to try that and see what works. And it's like, please don't do that. Yeah. Like for a while too, like you have obviously seen Tyson Nelson bowl in his form there. A lot of kids trying to copy that. We're like, please don't.
I bowled with him at the Autumn Open, and he was just bombs. Blowing it away.
It's funny. So we did the level 2 course, and like everything that they say not to do, Tyson does, and it's so funny because like looking at Tyson, like he shouldn't bowl as good as he does, and he's amazing. And like watching, if you ever get the chance, go walk onto the lanes and watch him from the front. He looks like he's gonna get drunk and fall over, but he's such a good bowler, and he just looks so silly bowling. And like with these kids, I'm like here. I tell their parents, I said, this is a tournament that's run. And it's done by really amazing bowlers, and I'm like, go, put it on the TV, have the kids watch it. I'm like, there's, not going to be any big swearing. Like they'll be okay, and like, watch this tournament. And I'm like, it's a very competitive tournament, and like, it's very cool to watch, and it's a lot of fun. I show it to all my YBC kids that are interested in the competitive aspect, or we try and invite them, be like, hey, like the Opens this weekend, try come and watch, like we'll be there, like your coaches will be here, like come and watch some of these competitive bowlers, right? So try and get it out there to get them to come watch.
Yeah, we appreciate it. That's awesome to hear that you guys help promote that kind of stuff, and it's neat. We started the 8-gamer and this pro league stuff, and obviously the WCBT has been running for 5+ years now, and producing these shows and hearing the feedback, like people, we put it up at our center on the TV so people can watch it when they're bowling and stuff like that. That's what the sport needs more of. It needs the sharing. It needs
within the leagues. The existing bowlers need to be supported.
Like
in league bowl, regular league bowlers, they need to idolize the.
Yeah, and like we were watching.
You need to promote it.
Yeah, we were watching it on Friday night. We had a couple people who were following along with it. They're like, I haven't watched it yet. Don't tell me who won that match. And don't spoil it for me. So we were talking about it, and one of the guys that bowls with us was like, I didn't watch the match yet. You spoiled who won it for me. So that was pretty funny.
So it was just like Squid Games, right?
Mm-hmm. Tim.
Squid Games, yeah.
Let's not talk about Squid.
Let's go to maybe one more question or some random topic there, Michaela, of your
sure.
Interview. That took us 25 minutes or half an hour to do one, so I don't know how long we got. For one out of each category.
Let's keep it short.
Tim's gonna have to repeat his answer for me when I do his interview anyway. So
yeah, perfect.
We'll do my part 3. So defining motivation and rewards. So one of my questions is, how do you stay motivated to practice and improve when bowling competitively? Do you feel an obligation to your team, to yourself, or both?
So if you qualify for a team, I definitely feel an obligation to practice for my team. There's 100% that's got to be a big stressor. Is you don't ever want to let other people down. You can handle it yourself if you know you didn't put in the work, you didn't put in the effort to succeed. But if you're letting other people down, that's got to be a huge, I don't know. It would drive me up the wall if I knew somebody came to provincials or nationals and they didn't play very well, and then you hear that they didn't throw a ball since qualifying. That would be very hard for me to hear, so I don't ever want to do that to somebody else. Individual wise, I think it depends where your game's at. If you're playing really well, practice probably isn't a huge stepping stone, right? You don't worry about it. But if you're not playing well, it definitely, if you want to be competitive, then it comes up. But I think if you're playing well, I don't see practice being a big thing.
Unless it's built into your routine already.
Yeah.
Right.
For me, my motivation to practice is as high as it's ever been when it comes to bowling, because I know that the difference for me from missing a cut by 60 pins to making the cut by at least 60 pins is practicing. And it's cleaning up on the second shots, the spares, the picking corners, the missing, spares. And if I don't, then I definitely don't have only myself to blame. So I don't want to blame myself anymore. I want to give it everything I possibly can. If I could go to the lanes every day, I think about bowling every day. I'd like to go every day, but obviously work and time, and you just can't, right? But I'm more motivated to practice now, to belong, to prove that I belong at one of those, making the cuts 4 out of 5 events. So yeah, the motivation now I think is higher than it's ever been, right? I've just always been I didn't even play leagues for a number of years, and I still made open teams. So I was one of those guys that Carrie was talking about. I would make open teams, not playing leagues, and then I wouldn't practice, and I'd show up at provincials and I'd play. Right? Play mediocre, half okay, 250, 260, but not, really, sure. I should have gone and practiced earlier. I just wasn't necessarily in the right mental mindset to practice and to play a bunch. So I was just sort of, I don't need to, right? My game is good. But the reality is, no, it wasn't, right? You could make teams and you could qualify, but you couldn't really get it to be, your stud. You weren't the anchor on the team. But if I would have practiced, maybe it would have been the anchor. Instead, I'm a 3-hole, right? So.
Yeah.
So, I actually have a different train of thought, like always. I think I'm a little bit, and I'll probably give her a different answer. But as of this moment, I will say that for team sports, Carrie can also has a detriment when it comes to team sports. Here in Edmonton, we make a team for the Open, for example. We have a couple designated team practices. With Central, they're so far out, they don't necessarily have an opportunity to do that, right? So that's where they're kind of on their own onus with that. But that being said, out here, I would probably just practice with our team practices. I wouldn't actually go and practice by myself unless I was struggling, right? And I wanted a couple more reps. When it comes to singles wise, it's the same thing. I won't practice unless I'm struggling, or you know what, I'm going to try this year, and I did do it before the autumn to throw some extra balls ahead of time, just because we haven't played a whole lot.
You mean your pre-bowl?
No, I actually stayed after work on Tuesday and did some more extra work and stuff like that. But I will say that when we were actually redoing our lanes, when we were switching over synthetic, I did not throw a single ball between Open Nationals in 2019 and Masters Nationals, and I showed up and I whooped Tyson Nelson's ass. So I do want to point that out. But besides that, I actually, if I actually had a chance to do something, I would want to, other than practice, I would actually want to probably go see a sports psychologist and work on health more, like go to chiropractor more, go to massages more, and work on that stuff more than the physical game. I think that would be more of a plus for me right now, because like right now I'm kind of a little bit of a mind funk on doubles and triples, and I talk myself out of it. I think a sports psychologist would be better, and I think like just getting my body in feeling better ahead of time for tournaments, it would probably be more of a plus for me, I think.
Have you thought about nutrition?
So I guess, Tim, and this is a question for Tim and Dex and some of the other proprietors out there. I think Jeff Young, I think, has said it before, and maybe Jeff England. And you own a bowling alley, you work at a bowling alley. Why are you not practicing 5 days a week? I get that you're there and you're working, but that's something to me that's crazy. And when I used to work at a bowling alley, I bowled every day that I worked.
Yeah.
I guess probably middle of shift, and that's why I got fired. I would
No
always
problem.
throw balls before, and I'm cleaning the rack later on. I would always throw balls. I just constantly throw balls. So
no.
it's hard to hear and sad in a way that you guys aren't practicing 3 days a week.
To be honest with you, you know what's the most annoying thing in the world is when you're actually trying to practice and you have Joe Blow from your league over there, 3 lanes over, that wants to come fucking talk to you. Like I just want to bowl.
Agree.
I just want to bowl. Just leave me the fuck alone, right? And sorry, your prof is going to hear this, but but that's exactly what it is, right? So I rather just come early in the morning, or sometimes I stay late on Tuesdays. Nobody's there. It's just us, and I can just be to myself.
Like, you should be. You have the greatest opportunity to.
But you're already there. You're already dealing with it all the time. You just want a time away from the center, right?
So
working in a bowling alley is exhausting, especially when it's open play and you've got drunk assholes. And like I work day shift, so Mario's usually has league twice a day, every day. So like when I'm off shift and I have to pre-bowl, I have all of my regulars or people from the lunch rush just like, oh, she bowls, and I have 12 people standing behind me, or I've got my senior bowlers, 55 plus bowlers, oh, you bowl, how you doing, and I'm just I want to practice and go home, because I'm on the night shift. I work until 1 o'clock in the morning sometimes, and my proprietor Bill, his 2 daughters both bowl, and people always ask him all the time, how come they're not averaging super high, because you guys basically own this place, how come they're not here? And they go, they're kids, it's a work-life balance, right? You don't want to be here all the time because you need the work-life balance.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you're saying, and on top of that, Daryl, I wouldn't say we have the greatest opportunity, because my chances are bowling first thing in the morning, or a lot of times for me it's midnight, because if we are busy in the afternoons, or I'm never going to work during shift because I've got enough other things to do. But even after shift, if we're busy, we are the last people that take lanes, right?
Yeah.
So
there's days where I go practice, or me and Philip go practice, and same thing with Mario's. If you're a coach, you bowl for free. So if you come practice, you bowl for free. But when it's busy and they need the lanes, you're not the priority anymore because you're not paying to be there. Yeah. So they'll come up to you and be like, hey, we need the lanes, you got to go.
But so I will say this, though. I think all of us can attest on this. Working at a bowling center, and when you work at a bowling center, regardless whether you're on shift or not, and you're actually bowling something, I think your mental game is actually better. Only reason why I'm saying, league bowling, you're bowling, somebody asks you a question, you're running over here, you're doing this. Right, there's Kerry can attest for the tour. Daryl's been there with plenty of other things, same as Dex. Your mind's everywhere else. But so when it comes to something like a tournament or something else, your focus level, I think my mental game when it comes to focusing is usually a whole lot better than I think everybody else is, because I'm used to all the distractions already. Right, I'm used to Gino yelling and swearing 3 lanes over. Oh, I don't even hear that. That doesn't even affect me, right?
Just your shoe squeaking.
That doesn't affect me. That affects you, right? I'm the one throwing it. So
I think we're gonna have to come up with a decibel level for the WCBT. If it reaches a certain, you get your shoe taken.
Oh, I guess my comment, Tim, is just in Dex is that throw 10 minutes worth of corner picks, right? And I get that you're too busy and you got a lot going on. It's hard for me to accept that as an excuse because of that. I spend long hours in my office, and I would do more for my work as much as I could.
But you don't want to go home and design a shirt for fun.
Yeah, but I do. I go home and I spend my evenings answering emails or looking up websites or doing different stuff or talking on podcasts, and
For sure.
whatever, right? So,
but doing those things for work as opposed to doing them for your personal life is
different.
But to answer your question about practice, I'm about the same as Carrie. Team stuff, I will absolutely make sure that I go in and throw some balls ahead of time. I don't want to be shitty for my team. That's the last thing ever. I'll put full effort in the entire time. Single stuff, if I'm struggling, I will absolutely go in. It's, again, probably an ego thing. I don't want to be shitty. I want to be good. I don't want to be known as shitty. So I make sure that I go in and I practice. But that's really only if I'm struggling. But team for sure, I'll definitely make sure. Like I said, never want to be bad. And again, finding reasons or, things to prove to people. I remember before Open Provincials one year, I had somebody tell me that I was going to be riding Pine the entire time because I was terrible, because I was punching lots on Wednesday nights. And I promptly drove him home and then turned around and went back to the bowling alley and worked on my game. And I'm pretty sure I was all-star that year. How did I
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome for taking you to nationals. Shut up.
There was one year at the Open. I don't know why we thought this was a good idea, but our ladies team always makes enough Jello shots and pudding shots to fill the mini fridge in the hotel. So we were all bowling really bad, picking our corner pins. I can't remember who idea with it. It's probably with Sam's, and they're like, okay, every corner pin spare you miss, you have to go take a tequila Jello shot out of the mini fridge. That didn't help. I had to go take 13 when we got back to the hotel.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
Oh, that was super fun. But for me for practice too, because if I have multiple leagues a week, I can't keep going out more because for me it was too much for me. Yeah, of course it was Sam's. And for Master Nationals the year that we won and everything, the only person on my team from my city was Katie, and our coach lived in Sudbury, so it was the motivation to go out and practice because I have nobody to practice with. I have nobody to keep myself in check at practice besides me. And same thing with the Open. Lately, our coach has been from Sudbury. We haven't had a coach from Thunder Bay coaching the ladies team from Thunder Bay. So as a team, we go out to practice together, and Sam and Katie usually run the practices. Katie will be I think it's usually Katie that's makes a list of what we have to do. So you have to hit right two pins in a row without missing or clipping the 3-pin. If you miss, you have to reset and do it again. Then you do the other side for the 2-pin, and then you have to hit the middle 5 times in a row, but it has to be sparable. If not, you reset and do it again. And that was really nice because you grow up in YBC and have a certain set of coaches, and you get to adult league and you have a certain set of coaches, but you also have teammates that have way more experience than you that have really good, tips and tricks of how to practice and do all this stuff. And one of the practices that I make my YBC kids do that I did, that she made us do, is you have to go 1 pin per ball. So you do 2-pin, 2-pin, 3-pin, 3-pin, head pin. You had to do that multiple times in a row before you could sit down. And I make my kids do that, and I'm gonna have to go do that again because my 2-pin spare percentage for my rights are really bad.
Love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we kind of reached our 2-hour mark. We're a little bit over. Is there anything, Michaela, you want to hit on before we kind of wrap this up?
I have lots of spots open, guys. Don't just assume that all these spots are full. Please email me. Get those consent forms back to me. Make sure you sign them. I will the interview date and time is up to you. I am completely free and flexible to your guys' schedules. I don't have anybody from Manitoba. I don't have anybody from Quebec. I don't have anybody from Northwest Territories. I only have and then every other province, I have one person.
Yeah.
So, and if I don't get any women from one province or I don't get any men, I'll just take all women again. If I'm only can get 2 from Saskatchewan and 0 from Quebec or 0 from Southern Ontario for whatever reason, I'll fix everything around. And I plan on sending emails out tomorrow and doing this. I wanted to get on the podcast and have more circulation of it. And I really appreciate the support from everybody and the sharing of my posts and the emails. And thank you guys for having me on here to help me get my stuff out. And
yeah. Of course, we shared it once again during this podcast. We shared it on our Facebook page. If people want to go look at the post and contact Michaela directly, but please contact her. Get this study. It needs to be done, and we can't thank you enough for coming on and doing this. I
Yes,
see
thank
Dexter.
you.
Dexter has something queued up here.
I just want to go back to we were talking about Superior. I found some pictures that I had in my email, so just so these guys could see what the ball returns look like.
Yeah. Wow.
So 1 and 2, and then there isn't another one until 4 and 5. So
Yeah.
you have
So
4
strange.
lanes open.
Yeah, and real wood lanes with the shields in the middle, and
Looks like you can grab your ball from the backside and not really interfere necessarily with
Well,
the guy on
You
spot.
have to time it.
right where that desk is, there right where the buttons are, you can put your balls there
Yeah.
too. And you can like grab, like if you think you're not gonna hit the middle and you're gonna sit your second ball there. But it was just hilarious seeing all the teams stand with their balls and make it.
Yeah.
It's a very missed. It's going to be a very missed house, and Brian and Lori were absolutely amazing proprietors. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Just want to show that off because it's unique.
Yeah,
Very
awesome. Well, thanks, Michaela. We'll let you go. We know you're 2 hours ahead over there, so it's getting a little bit late for you.
I'm off tomorrow, so it's all good.
Oh, perfect.
And you got to go lock up the school.
Yeah, I put a note on the door so in case like security came around, I'm like, I'm in a meeting. Please don't open the door.
We were just watching you take a look a couple times. So we were wondering, just make sure Michaela's okay.
I could hear doors closing because like some classes they have like 3-hour classes from 7 to 10, so it might just be profs leaving because like the hallway that I'm in is not classrooms; it's all offices. So it might be just profs grabbing stuff and leaving. So
Yeah, for sure.
At 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Michaela. We're going to let you go, and we're going to do our little closing banter and our all-star draw. And once again, thank you again for coming on.
thank you everybody for your support. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It was great meeting you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Perfect. That was very informative, and it's neat to see an academic study being conducted on 5-pin bowling. Like she said, she couldn't find anything academic-wise, and to have somebody that's invested in competitive bowling and then taking this sociology project, that's pretty cool.
Well, and I think what's unique too is the 4 of us all have different perspectives. Right?
Yeah.
For whatever, whether it's ball or soccer or working at the lanes or whatever it is, right? We've all got different, perspectives and ideas and thoughts and whatnot, right? And that's what's cool about Michaela is that she's going to get 40 different perspectives and be able to form it all together to see if there's a common theme or there's not, right? And then it's an awesome project. So hopefully people support her project. It's very worthwhile. So get your emails off to her and do it, right? And if you think that there's somebody that would be really good to do a study like this, ask them to do the study, right? Or send an email to Michaela and say, hey, so-and-so from Manitoba would be really good for your study. I'm sure she'd be happy for that. And if there's a way, and obviously you guys, Tim, or contact her, chatting with her lots too. There's lots of guys on tour that could probably be good for this too, that maybe just need a welcoming, just a nudge. Hey, this would be really good.
There's a few ladies that need to get on that.
Ladies, we talked
not
about,
from
there's one
Manitoba.
time, I can't remember who it was, somebody mentioned about practicing, and their dad's driving them around everywhere to practicing, right? And the guy that came to mind there was a guy like Matt Schultz, right? His dad drove him around everywhere before tournaments and would practice at all the different houses, right? So his perspective could be different than everybody else's. So it's a neat project, and I wish her all the best in doing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I'm
super grateful that we're having something like this actually happen for our sport. It's awesome.
I'm interested to see what the results are. Obviously, I'm kind of a results person, and I just hope the bowling as a whole does Michaela's work justice, right? And I really think that we can use it and maybe grow the sport with it too. I really think there's something with the research that we can use and develop something with it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that was an awesome podcast. So our one last thing, the All-Star Draw. Let's get this rocking and rolling. And before we do it, just a reminder, our second showing of the Team Pro League is this Sunday at 9 in the morning for Alberta time for everybody else across the country. So tune in. It goes directly to our 5-Pin Universe YouTube page. It doesn't stream to Facebook. So we'll be sharing it on Facebook, the link to our YouTube live stream. But if you subscribe and turn on the notifications on the YouTube page, you'll get a email and all that good stuff for when we go live.
Yeah. Sunday morning bowling is back.
Who's playing?
Let's share it and build it.
The Okanagan Eclipse, Heartland Kingpins, and the 5-Pin Universe Dream Crushers are all competing this Sunday.
Elite.
That's right.
Elite.
Steve Greenside's your 8-gamer. So I just got back from a week-long, I call it a holiday, but it was work away for a week. I got back to my normal job and I'm finally getting caught up. So hopefully we'll get some 8-gamer matches all edited and posted for you guys. This stuff takes time when there's one person behind doing the editing. We're hopefully we'll be able to expand that for our if we do host another 8-gamer event, we'll make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so 21 entries for the All-Star draw. Good luck, everyone.
It was kind of quiet. No Len Anseth tonight, eh?
Yeah.
I wonder if his league maybe started Wednesday nights.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Ryan was respectful. It was
It was
good.
great. It was
For the most part. Rogularity, there you go.
Nice.
Cool.
Fantastic.
We'll get in contact with you and just
So
post
next
on
week
Facebook.
we will do a podcast, guest to be determined, and then the following week we'll do a press conference for.
The TPC.
I think that's where we're at, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there's Lenny. Hi, Len.
Wow. I don't know if that's proper English or if that's exactly what he meant.
I don't think that's the way you want to do it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. Have a great night, and we'll see you all Sunday.
See you Sunday.
Thanks, guys.
Good.